to him about that, how he fishes shallow water, how he finds these out of the way. I think weren't you guys out fishing today?
Kinda.
More like trying to film something.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. I know I am. I want to welcome you to a brand new Bass U Live. And we've got a really, really good one for you tonight. We are going to be talking about aquatic vegetation. And with us on tonight's show, we have two experts in aquatic vegetation. We're going to be joined by Jeff Holland, who knows more about grass than Cheech and Chong. And we're also going to be joined by pro angler Bryan Schmitt. And if you follow Bryan Schmitt's career, you know that he kicks butt in grass, especially grass on tidal water. It's going to be a good one. We're broadcasting live tonight, of course, on bassu.tv/live. Also on Bass University Facebook and Instagram page. YouTube page as well. We got a great room here tonight, too. With COVID starting to loosen up a little bit, we actually have some people in studio tonight. Of course, pushing buttons for us tonight over on the producer side, 6 feet away, is the one and only Brian the Carpenter. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm all right, man.
I got to tell you something real quick. I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
Haven't been at a BU Live in a few shows, but what a great one, dude, for me to come back to. Like, I am so jacked up, not just about Bryan Schmitt, you know, because he's devastating, but I'm also jacked up about getting Jeff Holland on the line here and trying to discern some of this vegetation stuff, because grass can be confusing. So I'm really excited about that. Over on the IMs tonight, and by the way, speaking of IMs, your input is so critical. If you have questions, comments, please hit us up on our IMs. Hit us up through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube with your questions. Going through all that mess tonight, of course, is the one and only Riz. Rizzo, how you doing, Riz?
Doing great. Glad to be up and running.
Riz, I want to call you to play on something. I want everyone to look very carefully at Riz's head. Look at his head. Look at that amazing new Bass U hat he has. I love it. I love that hat. It's camo. It's got the bright orange on it. Of course, the BU logo. And here's the best thing about it. Pete didn't design it, so this one actually looks good. Most of them are terrible because Pete designs it. Nah, I'm just busting his balls.
I'm cutting edge, brother. Come on. I'm all about fashion over here.
I like it. And then, of course, joining us via, what is this technology called again? Zoom Baits. We've got two powerhouses in knowledge when it comes to bass fishing. Of course, the dean of the Bass University, Pete Glusick, and the one and only Ken Duke, who knows more about bass fishing than anybody alive. How you doing tonight, guys?
Woo! Doing great, Mike.
Good.
Doing good. It's good to see you again so soon from the Ike Live show.
Yes.
We talked about a lot of great stuff. I think we still have some unfinished conversations about the recent Ike Foundation Derby. You know?
Yeah.
I never found out how Riz caught his fish.
Well, Riz, I don't know if he wants to give that information up, but we'll ask him.
I bet I could ask the message board right now. They'd probably be able to tell you.
The message board knows. The Ike Foundation, Ken, I don't know if you followed any of it, but it's so fitting as an example for tonight's show. We had 140 boats, which for the Northeast up here, you know, is really, really good. We gave away a Bass Cat and Yamaha motor, which never happens up in this part of the country. But we hit the post-spawn grass bite dead on the tits. I mean, you could not have hit it better. So perfect. Just to give you a little stats, Ken, this is mind-blowing. We had 130 boats come in with a 5-fish limit.
Wow.
We had 20 of those boats have over 18 pounds, and we had 5 of those boats weighing over 21 pounds. And I'd venture to say 90% of those stats, of the fish from those stats that I gave you, Brian, if I'm mistaken, correct me, came from vegetation. And you could tell they look different.
That's right.
They're yellow. They're freaking yellow, dude. And they're gorgeous.
Yep.
They have beautiful coloring. And I asked, by the way, I was the MC of the event, and I asked 90% of the guys that came up, and the answer was vegetation, vegetation, vegetation. So perfect example for tonight's show.
Grass.
But Mike, you said how many boats had 5 bass limits?
130 boats, and
Are you
so
kidding me?
yeah, so there may have been 10 that left that came back and said, I got 5 that weigh 10 pounds. I ain't weighing these things, and threw them away. So it may have been all 140. You know?
Wow.
I only remember seeing 4 guys that came up that had less than 5. And those 4 guys had, 2 of them had 4 and 2 of them had 3. That's incredible, dude.
That's spectacular.
That's incredible.
I mean, those numbers are just like I saw it when I was out there on the flats fishing amongst them. I mean, everywhere I looked, I was watching a fish catch happen. And
Yes.
Usually it's very isolated. Like the guys that find the juicy juice are the ones catching them, and everybody's watching, wishing they were where the other guys were. But in this instance, man, it was spread out. The field was spread out, and everybody had a bent rod.
Yeah, I want to turn Ken real quick. You've analyzed this sport for a lot of years. You know more about tournament wins than anybody. What percentage, Ken, do you think of the big events over the years have been won in vegetation?
I think probably 90% of the ones where that was a viable option to fish,
Right.
Mike.
Right. When it's available.
Yeah, when it's available, I bet you it's 90%.
Wow.
And I think the fact that guys, so many boats came in with limits, so many boats had heavy catches at your tournament. And congratulations, by the way. The Ike Foundation is a fabulous cause. But I think one of the reasons they did so well is when these guys were pent up during the hottest period of COVID-19, obviously they were spending all their time on Bass U.
Right.
So,
right. A lot of them were. It's funny you said that. It's a great plug, but it's funny you say that because I don't know if you know this, Pete, because I know with the COVID regulations, you sort of had to bring your fish up and then head right back. But we got a lot. I'd say I heard it at least 15 or 20 times. Guys up there when I was interviewing them reference BU, including our winners, Pete, who gave us a lot of credit last night.
Yeah, and that's great. It makes you feel great about the work that we're doing, and we're truly helping guys, win tournaments in that instance, but also sending guys out with confidence so that they can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like they're not lost. They have a plan. They have confidence. They've learned some techniques.
Yep.
And can go out there and do it. And that makes you feel like we're doing the right thing.
For sure. This is going to be a special show tonight. If you're watching right now, man, we got a good one for you. Once again, Jeff Holland joining us, and also Bryan Schmitt, 2 of the best grass authorities probably in the world. Riz, you want to talk to the people a little bit about, we got some special stuff going on. What do we got? What do we got happening?
Absolutely. As always during the show, anybody that gets a question through to us and we use it on the show, we're going to hook you up. We're going to send you some various prizes from our sponsors like Rapala, VMC, Missile Baits, TH Marine, and we're actually having a Facebook like and share tonight as well. So if you're not watching over on the website, that's all right. We still want you to like and share tonight's feed, and you're going to be entered in for a chance to win a Rod Warrior rod sock, a Minn Kota hat, and a pair of Ike's Signature Series sunglasses. Now, for tonight's grand prize, we're once again going to reference Mr. Ken Duke for a trivia question.
Yes.
And the Ken Duke trivia question is the heavy hitter. That's what's in front of you, Mike. That's the G-Force TH Marine culling system.
Oh, yes.
It's a Rapala DT20. It's a Flambeau box. It's a missile baits. It's a missile baits destroyer pack and an RTD rod threading device. So that is the juice, guys. If you're not already signed up for Bash UTV, you need to get over there. Use the promo code
Big value.
BU Live 30.
Big
and you
value.
get to try it for 30 days. You get unlimited access to our over 700 instructional bass fishing videos on the website. But also, you get your questions through tonight and be a part of the show. So head over there, take advantage of the awesome deals that we have going on. And hey, guys, by the way, make sure if you are a Bash UTV subscriber and you're a fan and you like the stuff that we're putting out, make sure you have your notifications turned on Facebook and YouTube so that you can stay up to date on all the stuff that we have going on and you can keep up with all the cool new releases we have going on the website.
Awesome. And we got a lot going on, and we have the Frog Days of Summer happening at Bash University, which is always fun. It's frog time. We've got a couple of Spro frogs and Bash University hat for all annual subscribers over at Bash University. And
this one, fellas, the new camo hat. That's what they're getting is the camo hat with 2 frogs.
Woo!
Yeah.
And I'm not cool enough to have it yet. So
I like that.
me and Ken are twins today, but the frog. I heard Riz. I heard you had a mishap on a frog first thing in the morning on Derby Day.
I sure did. It was one of those
Like to
things.
talk about it?
Let's relive it.
Yeah, let's come on.
relive it.
Let's relive.
Let's pull that
No, I
Band-Aid
mean,
off.
typical flats fish blew up on the frog. Everything was as the way it should be. Made sure the fish had it. Dug the hook set in, and one big jump later, and my frog went flying out of that fish's mouth, which was another big solid flats fish that probably would have got rid of the 3-pounder that we kept in our bag for the entire day. So that one stung a little bit, but we'll be back at it after again with the Spro frogs.
Well, I was, and that sucks that happened. I know I hadn't been on the water, as you guys know. I've been in most of the time and hadn't been fishing very much. But my rust was
Pete's rust.
Pete's rust.
rust. It was all over me, man.
It's all over me.
I missed 2 back-to-back fish, but one was just egregious, and I threw out. It was on a Senko, and it was
How did you
really,
miss?
what did I miss?
Just keep going.
Pete's rust.
That's what got you over the edge.
Gotta spray you
Brian,
down with Z-Rust, Pete.
Nope.
Just spray you down.
I needed it, man. My braid wrapped around my rod like 5 times, and as soon as the bait hit the water, the fish had it.
Oh.
And I'm like handcuffed because I got nowhere to go. Do I set the hook that's knotted on my rod tip? Do I try to hand line them in, or do I try to untangle it and broadcast to the fish? Here,
Broadcast to the fish.
I think you should have went with the manual hook set, Pete. Just grab your line and just jerk it.
All of a sudden, a big giant TV comes up behind Pete with a broadcast on it.
I totally botched it, man. I totally screwed it up. I opted to try to untangle my line, and the fish felt me.
Tell me you were running a GoPro, please, Lord.
Blow it out.
Please, God. Tell me you were running a GoPro.
I need that guy's contact info, Pete.
Your
Your
ratings,
Pete, when you broadcast the fish, how are your ratings?
they disappeared quickly, Ken.
Oh, boy.
It was like, oh my God. And you know what? Here's what I needed to do. And all I needed to do was hit my trolling motor on high toward the fish, and it would have created slack, and I could have untangled it, set the hook. I was worried about setting the hook with a wrapped line because I thought it might break, So I was handcuffed. I didn't react. I didn't know, but So Pete's Rust.
Pete's Rust.
There's another one. Add that one, Riz. Make sure we write that down.
Yeah, is Pete's Rust a new punk band, or is that an independent beer label? I can't decide.
Oh, I love it, man.
Amazing.
love
Thank
it.
you, Pete.
Yeah, that was great.
Pete's not. Pete's Rust.
Pete's Rust.
All right, man.
I don't
Let's hit a
know.
commercial break. We ready? Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's listen. If you're watching right now, hang in there. You're going to learn a lot tonight. You're going to be entertained. It's going to be a good night. Hang in there with us. When we come back, who we got, Bri?
Jeff Holland.
Jeff Holland. Cannot wait. You're going to learn more about grass in 1 hour than you've learned your whole life. Hang in there with us. We're at Bass U Live.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse. Everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful
Oh,
than
God,
others.
giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. One box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bass U Live. Hope you're having a great Tuesday night. You've got a great show in store for you tonight. We're talking all about aquatic vegetation. And we've got two of the authorities on the subject. From the biology standpoint, joining us here in a second, we've got Mr. Jeff Holland. I said it before, he knows more about grass than Cheech and Chong. Later in the show, we're going to be joined by Bryan Schmitt, BASS pro, who has a knack for winning and catching them out of grass. In the studio with us here, we've got Brian the Carpenter pushing buttons. We've got Rizzo on IMs. And, of course, joining us via Zoom, the one and only Ken Duke and the dean of the university, Pete Glusa. Guys, this is going to be a good one tonight.
Yes.
I can't wait. I mean, grass is just such it's the way to catch them when there's grass in a lake. And there's so many facets to it that, I want to ask questions about and learn about from Jeff. And I'm hoping, I already see on our, IM board, guys are chiming in with their questions about vegetation. So, yeah, this is important. If you're confused by grass, don't know how to fish it, want to get confident in it, this is the show for you.
Yeah, I'd agree.
My confidence was low. I gave a story before we went on break, but I caught the biggest fish that I caught that day. I threw out my Senko again, and I'm retying a spinnerbait. And as I'm sitting there, my partner, Derek, says, "Pete, your rod is bumping against the trolling motor." And I look up, and sure enough, my rod is just surging, boom, boom, against the trolling motor.
Oh, my God.
And I had the bail open, and the line had I left the bail open in case I got a bite. He wouldn't broadcast to the fish, but the line had become impacted. So the rod was now banging against the trolling motor.
Oh my God.
The fish must have ripped out about 100 yards of line or more.
Wow.
And done circles around clumps of milfoil grass. I engaged the bail and I start reeling in, and I could feel the braid slicing through clump after clump after clump. And I'm like, there's no way this fish is getting caught. And he does. He's 4 and change, the biggest fish I caught that day. Probably 4.5 pounds.
Wow.
So then I started dead sticking for like the next 3 hours and never got another bite.
It's usually the way it works. That's usually the way it works. Let me remind everybody. Yeah, let me remind everybody, Pete, real quick. We want to hear from them. If you've got questions or comments about anything you hear tonight, please hit us up. Riz, they can do it through the IM. They can do it through the Facebook, Instagram, and the YouTube as well if they want to.
Yep, we're gonna be mainly looking at the bashu.tv/live website.
Okay.
So guys, if you want to make sure I see your questions, make sure you head over there to Bashu TV.
And let me remind everybody, we're giving away some great prizes tonight, including the grand prize from the Duke. And we're going to be doing that a little later in the show. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Ken Duke trivia question.
All right. I'm excited. Well, let's get. I want to jump right into it, Pete. Is it okay if we get Jeff on?
Jeff's on.
Jeff's on. Okay. Joining us on Bash U Live, we've got Mr. Jeff Holland. Everybody.
Yes.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me on.
How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, doing great. Can't wait to talk about some bass and aquatic plants.
Man, I have looking forward to this. I honestly boycotted the last few shows, but when I saw your name pop up on this one, I returned. I'm excited. Listen, I think I'm probably like a lot of guys. I've been fishing professionally for 23 years. I've been fishing my whole life, and I sort of know a little bit about grass, but with all that fishing time, I still feel like there are a lot of things I don't know about grass. There's a lot of little stuff that I'm unsure of, from the types of grass, what it actually is, to why they use certain grass and not the others. There's so many questions I have for you. This could be a 4-day show, Jeff, and I'd have enough questions for you.
I don't know if I brought enough water.
Okay.
Get some more water.
Okay. This is going to be a good one. I want to start with a question that I have, which directly relates to what happened this past weekend on the Upper Chesapeake Bay. I don't know if you heard earlier in the show, but we had a Ike Foundation event there. We had 140 boats, and the guys caught them like crazy. Jeff, it was unbelievable. 130 of the 140 weight limits. We had multiple 18 and 20 pound bags. These fish were big. They were post-spawn. They were eating. And this bite will continue on the flats as long as that milfoil is there. Here's my question to you. Why is milfoil so good? And when it goes away, why don't they use the other types of aquatic grass as good? When the milfoil leaves our bay, the flat on our bay, it's replaced by eelgrass, or eelgrass maintains, and they just don't use it the same. I'm dying to know that question. I've wanted to know that question for a long time. Why is milfoil so good?
Well, first thing I would look at is it's a whole different form. Form and function work hand in hand. Think of the way a milfoil is. It's a very branched plant, grows up very thick, tops out, produces a different habitat in the water than your eelgrass. Your eelgrass will top out, but it doesn't. It's a single blade of grass, basically. So You're comparing a very complex branched plant to a flat blade of grass, and a deer's not going to hide out there in the out in the grass. It's going to be in the tree line. So that's one of the reasons, bass being a predator, they're going to use that as a better ambush. Unless your eelgrass is really, really topped out, they can still use it. But you're talking two different forms, plant forms. So I would look more at the fact that form of plant, that branchingness, that's going to hold a lot more insects and smaller fish as well.
Right.
That would be my guess on that. It's one reason I got involved is to try to test these theories and see what it is. But that's what I find is the form that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That plant, the way it grows.
I'd agree, and it's unbelievable. It's so lush. It makes canopies. You know, my non-biology terminology for it, I always called it feathers. I would call it feathers, you know, because the grass, if you look at it, it almost looks like feathers. It's got, you know, these amazing soft plumes that stick out. And boy, it's so unbelievable when those bass are in there. But when it leaves the bay, it's hard to catch them in that eelgrass. It's just they don't use it the same. I don't know. I wish I knew the movement. But let me ask you this, too, just as a follow-up question. Why does that milfoil leave our bay? Is it heat related? Is it salt related? Because we do have a little salt influx that will come up. Why do we lose that milfoil late summer? You know, by July, end of July, we've lost 90% of the milfoil grass.
Yeah, you had to pick a plant that I'm not the most familiar with because you have the milfoils up there. You have those. It's a more northern plant, and we do have one down here. It's called parrot's feather. Just like you described, it's very feathery looking when you look at each leaf. But our parrot's feather grows in single clumps, not these big flats like up there. I did look it up. It does have a tolerance to salt, so it's about 10 parts per thousand on salt. So eelgrass does too. So it could be salt related. I do not know the full life cycle of it, but that's something that one of the things I'm sharing tonight is links to your different agencies and universities up there have amazing links to find out more about your plants up there.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I want to leave with the viewers is the fact that you go to these links, you really want to look up that seasonal pattern and the habitats and how that life cycle is for that plant. You'll have to go back to the Bass University and some of these links, and we should be able to dig into that a little bit farther.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I see you have a question, Ken.
Yeah, guys, I know that a lot of people have read the teaser about Jeff and his credentials, but just to reiterate some of that, because I don't think we had a chance to talk about him on the show yet. You know, Jeff is a limnologist. That's a guy who studies biology, chemistry, and the physical features of lakes and other bodies of fresh water. He also studied oceanography in college. This is a guy who he's the foremost expert on aquatic vegetation in the bass fishing world. He's also a retired Bassmaster Opens pro. So this is a guy who's actually put it to the test in tournament after tournament out there. And Jeff, I haven't seen Jeff since lunch today, so we've got a lot of catching up to do. But you know, one of the things I'm always bugging Jeff about, and it's Jeff's fault because I have his cell number. But I'm all the time taking a picture of some weed when I'm out fishing and sending it to Jeff and asking him, "Hey man, what is this?" And after he stops laughing at me because he can't make hide or tail of my blurry picture, he invariably has a cool answer telling me exactly what I'm looking at. But Jeff, I know you get a lot of pictures from guys asking you to identify something. How about a tip for sending you a picture? Because I know you were considering letting the folks at Bass U receive pictures, and you would help analyze and get back to folks about it.
Sure. If it's not me, other biologists will be able to look at the picture better if you take the right picture. I think I received a picture of a ball of aquatic plants in someone's hand. I think Bryan sent me that. Somebody sent me that, but or Pete sent me that, and I have a picture of Illinois pondweed. Where I'm holding it. Basically, you want to hold it so that someone can see the leaves, and if you can grab a flower, then you can really help identify it with the flower. But yeah, sending a picture of wadded up plant and saying, "What is this?" That's the hardest thing for any biologist to identify.
Jeff, there's no leaves or flowers on that stuff. What you saw is what we have.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, on what I sent, you could flatten it out. Anything, if you're talking algae, yes, flatten it out in your hand so you can kind of see: is it a stem? Is it a single stem? You kind of see a water net. The picture that you sent has a few features in it that we were talking about, but I couldn't quite see it because it was a ball.
You know what? I'll send you a pic of some that's dried out on my trailer.
We'll send you some in a box.
Yeah. I'll send you some in a box.
We'll send you a cooler. We'll fill some wet.
It's pretty. this vegetation we're talking about, we've got people listening and watching right now that probably have no idea what we're talking about, but it is more, I guess, algae based. It doesn't have a stem, doesn't have a leaf, doesn't have a root. It's really black. It's black in color.
Kind of like hair.
Yeah, like hair.
Yeah.
It'll grow on the bottom. It'll make plumes as it gets hotter. It actually plumes up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the hardest stuff around that I've ever had to fish. I mean, a weedless, weightless Senko will still get tangled in it. But here's the beauty of this grass, and whatever you want to call it. We call it Black Death. We call it snot. We have some other derogatory terminology we're not going to say right now.
Thank you.
But here's the thing about it, Jeff, and want to get your take on it. As hard as it is to fish, when you pull some out of the water and you look at it in your hand, there is life in this stuff, and it's unbelievable. Like literally, I showed Vegas or my son the other day. I got a piece. He said, "Dad, why are they why are they around this stuff?" I grabbed the piece off the bottom and I showed it to him, and I said, "Look in here." And there were these little like freshwater shrimp moving around. There's little worms. There's all these organisms in this grass.
Yeah.
And it's the basis of life. Is that true for most aquatic vegetation, Jeff?
The grass or the algae, actually, to an algae that you sent, looks like one of the filamentous green algae. Yes, that is the basis. Algae is the basis of life. Pretty much all the oxygen we enjoy comes from algae. And they're also in that kind of algae there is beneficial. That's why I saw the arthropods in there. They're called scuds. And I saw some water net and some other maybe species. It was hard to tell, but I was worried that it was one of the blue-green filamentous algae, which have a sheath on them in a lot of aquatic plants and a lot of insects. A lot of insects don't like it. But no, yours is a green algae, a healthy algae, and your insects and the aquatic life you see in there are telling you that's a healthy one.
Yeah.
And that is the food chain right there.
Yeah.
They're the first responders for any nutrients, anything that comes in. They're the ones that are utilizing those nutrients first.
Wow.
One of the interesting things, like down on the bay, is and Mike, you mentioned this about the milfoil, how it disappears, but they're in concert with one another. When as the milfoil, I can't tell if the algae is killing the milfoil or the milfoil is disappearing and the algae is taking over.
The second. We see that with the hydrilla down here in Florida. Once something happened and start dying in the back, the algae take advantage of the nutrient release and start growing on top of it. And if you're up there in the Chesapeake Bay and you have any salinity, there are some red algae that like to take advantage of it as well, especially in the fall and winter, the red algae. But yes, quite a few algae will take advantage of any nutrients coming off of that. Like I said, they're the first ones responding to a nutrient bloom.
Wow.
Interesting. Wow, that's interesting. Because, that milfoil, I always thought it was salinity that kills the milfoil, but then this algae appears to survive it. I mean, it thrives in it, and it winds up taking over the whole place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, that goes back to your question. Why is it dying back? If you're seeing it's probably a marine algae coming in, and that's telling you salinity is increasing and dying back possibly. I mean, it's all about theories. That's all we do as anglers. We test the theory out. That doesn't work. Try something else.
Yeah. Speaking of theories, I think we have a couple questions, Riz, coming through.
Yes, we do. The first question comes in from none other than Professional Fishhead. And Professional Fishhead would like to know, Jeff, what makes some types of grass better than others? Is it seasonal, or do they just host a better environment for bait to live in?
Nice. Again, it goes back to the form of it. Is it branched or a single type of leaf? Is it a healthy, beneficial green algae or green plant that's growing healthy, or is it dying back? There's a whole lot of levels there to dive into about that question. Mainly, it depends on the growth cycle. Of course, it's new growth is sometimes better, but then sometimes the canopy of growth is good, depending on the season. So there's a lot of factors involved in that. I can't give you one answer for that one.
Well, I've always been of the opinion that the milfoil dominates. Like when I go fishing, if there's milfoil grass in a lake, that's where I'm going to try to fish first. That's my hierarchy. Is there a how does it work? Like, do they just prefer hydrilla milfoil? Then they'll use whatever's available after that, or do you have a theory on that?
Again, if you had some coontail next to it, a big bed of the coontail up there, I don't know how far that grows up in your area, but that's an equivalent complex plant that grows to the top.
Yeah.
And that's a beneficial high oxygen producer. I would have to guess if you had an equal size milfoil bed and a coontail bed, the coontail is probably going to produce a lot more oxygen. It's slower growing. It's going to be there seasonal. It's not going to come and go. So you just need to find another similar form of aquatic plant that the fish are going to move to, if they can, if it's close enough.
Jeff, that what you just said there about the oxygen, it brings me to another great question from one of our subscribers, Blake. And Blake actually wants to know what grass produces the most oxygen.
From what I've read in all the scientific studies, I've seen coontail, Ceratophyllum. That's the one that produces. When we'll have links to that too, but that's the one that I know of produces a lot of oxygen. And of course, most healthy grass beds do. Your eelgrass you talked about, when it gets a small thin layer of algae on it, the algae actually produces probably, that thin layer of paraphytic attached algae probably produces as much, if not more than the other plant.
Yeah, I can tell you coontail is a bad dude, man. It's a bad dude, and we do have it up here. I've got just a real quick story, and Pete knows this one, but back when I fished the Federation, my tournament that would get me to the national, so it was our divisional tournament. At that particular year, I think it was 1997, was held on up on Lake Winnipesaukee, and it's a great lake, and 90% of the people that go to Winnipesaukee target smallmouth really deep, especially that time of the year. It was early fall, and they're fishing sandgrass in 20, 30 foot of water. In that tournament, I bucked all that, and I ran to this long arm of Winnipesaukee that had lush coontail that was mixed with boulder rock, and I ended up winning my state, and it qualified me on to the nationals, which led to my first Bassmaster Classic in 1999. So shout out to coontail for getting me to my first classic.
Aquatic plants. That's great, Mike. The only thing I don't like about coontail, it has a very wimpy root system, so it will rip up in the wind a lot easier than milfoil. Milfoil tends to have a better root system than that. So.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a great plant.
Can you talk about root systems? Bottom, like I see lily pads growing in like, it seems like mucky bottoms, soft bottoms. What grasses grow in more firm bottoms, and which grasses grow in soft bottoms? Because that's so key in figuring out, where you want to fish.
Yeah, around the spawn especially.
Well, don't discount your lilies. Some of your cow lilies and spatterdocks, while they do grow in mucky bottoms, they have that big tuber root crown that the fish will spawn on like it is a hard bottom. So some of the plants can actually make a bottom for you, it seems like, in the muckiest areas. That's why the lily pad fields are so good down here on our Kissimmee chain. But as far as bottoms, I notice a lot with the cattails. Cattails are a very good indicator of a solid sandy bottom. Ooh, they're pretty good about spreading. The cool part about a cattail is it's an invader. So whenever your water's low in the winter, it will start growing anywhere there's a shoal in front of a pipe. So that's a cool thing. If you notice cattails growing in a small clump off the edge of deeper than all the rest of the grass, that pretty much tells you there's a pipe there or an inflow, a small stream, something created the shoal that the cattail got a hold of, because it likes sand like that. So does your bulrush. A lot of your bulrushes like sand. A lot of plants want a little bit of muck. They don't like pure sand, but cattails is one of those few that can invade in pure sand and make its way, because it produces a deep root all the way down. Okay. There's a whole list of ones, but there's a few for you.
Arrowheads, the arrowhead pads, I noticed, seem to always grow around sandy bottoms, making for great spawning habitat, especially down in Florida.
Yes, most of them are your emergents that stick out of the water that like that hard bottom. Sure.
Mother-in-law tongue. Mother-in-law tongue.
Is that aquatic?
That's aquatic. That's an aquatic plant. Mother-in-law tongue. You never heard of that?
We call it flags because bass
Yes.
love to spawn in it. When they're
Flags,
up there,
that's
they
right.
wait. They actually move, and you can see the bass moving through them. So it's like a flag saying, "I'm over here."
It's a giveaway. I've got another one. I got to get this out too because I had a couple that were on my list that I just have to ask you. And this one goes back to a lesson I learned in a tournament, and it blew me away at the time. It blew me away. I'm going back to the early 2000s, Jeff, and I had an event on Lake Seminole, which is on the border of Florida. And I guess Georgia.
I fished that one. Yes.
Yes, and I remember it so well because I remember getting to Seminole, and I remember saying, "Grass is going to be key," and God, I've got to find a fresh. This was, by the way, this was like a late February, early March tournament. So I'm like, God, I got to find that milfoil. I got to find the hydrilla. I got to find where that stuff's growing. Pre-spawn bass love it. So I spent my entire practice looking for grass that was growing, that was green, that was alive. I ended up having a mediocre tournament, but the guy that won was Gary Klein, and he ended up flipping dead hyacinth mats.
I remember that.
Yeah, you probably remember that tournament. At that time, that blew me away. That was groundbreaking for me because I always believed dead grass was the devil. Dead grass was bad. Stay the hell away from dead grass. It's eating oxygen. Fish hate it. And here, Gary Klein flipped dead hyacinth mats and won the tournament by landslide. Talk a little bit about that, because that up to that point, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I think I know a little bit better now. But talk a little bit about why they still use dead grass in some cases.
I think the key to that story is you said February.
Yes.
The cold water holds a lot more oxygen than hot water. So yes, you have bacteria and a lot of organisms breaking down that the dead plants and eating it, and they're using up oxygen. But the water's cold; it's holding a lot more oxygen. It can handle it. So the oxygen under that mat is perfectly good because you have a lot of cold water. You do the same thing in the summertime when you have 85, 90 degree water. You have no oxygen. Probably at night, since there's no photosynthesis going on at night, the oxygen crashes. It's probably down to 1 part per million in the morning in there, if it ever even comes up.
Right.
But because it's winter, the winter time is that was your key right there.
And
it's also warmer. That produces heat too.
That's a great lesson. That's a great lesson. Listen, if you're a Bass U subscriber, if you're listening tonight, think about that one. That's a great one. Dead matted vegetation when the water's cold. Super viable. Oxygen's good there. It provides a heat shelter. When it's hot, stay the hell away from that. Stay away.
You know what? I spent all the time fishing trying to understand one thing, Mike, is in the morning you have very little oxygen in the summertime because there's no photosynthesis. All the plants are using and the organisms are using up the oxygen. The oxygen is the lowest of the whole day, first thing in the morning. And I got my butt whooped by people flipping all these big tussocks and mats, and I could not understand it because I could stick a oxygen meter under there and get 1 part per million or even half a part per million oxygen. I never understood why the bass were in there, except my only theory was all the fish that were living in there, the bass must have came in first thing and started feeding on them because there's no oxygen. They're kind of all messed up because there's no oxygen. So maybe they were easier to feed and under these mats, but I still don't understand. That's one I still don't understand. There's a lot of professors, the University of Florida and I think Indiana are doing oxygen studies. I'm going to follow up on that one and figure out what's going on because that's intriguing and I still don't know the answer to that one. But
it's interesting, Jeff, because I have a question kind of in that vein. There's a grass, and Mike, I know you fished around it. I call it river grass because I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like it's real branchy, like milfoil. It looks beautiful. It looks like it should hold tons of fish, and you should be able to really catch fish out of it. But for me, only on extremely rare occasions have I ever been successful catching any fish at all
I agree.
around this type of stringy river grass.
Yeah.
Are there grasses that, man, repel bait fish that just put out something and fish don't like it?
Oh, yes. We have a few down here. Believe it or not, the lemon bacopa. It's one of the ones down here. It produces a lemon smell. You crush it. It smells like one of your lemon house cleaners, really. They do produce, and it's a very mucus kind of slime layer on it, but it's a beautiful plant. Fish don't like that. We've got some other ones, limnophila, some exotics coming in, same thing. Plants have the ability to repel any insects that eat them, and also fish sometimes don't like it. Those are good for nurseries for fish, but a lot of times your big predators, there's not enough big food in there for them. But there's always life in them. It's going to hold a bunch, probably not.
Jeff, are those the plants that you always tell me to go fish when we see each other?
Yes, Kim can share a picture right there.
That's your local
That's
Wednesday nighter. Go fish this stuff.
Yeah, there's another kind of grass that repels fish too. It's called the Kim Kardashian grass.
Really?
Grows in little tufts.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, we've talked around some of this, but how about some of the big myths that you hear from anglers about, or the biggest misunderstandings you hear from anglers about fishing and vegetation and how vegetation works?
Mike hit the nail on the head. Everyone always stays away from dead grass, and I love it because if I know where it's died, how long ago it died, I'm going to be fishing it right away because all the shrimp and all the arthropods in there, now they have no place to hide. So it's a smorgasbord for all your sunfish and all the darters that are on the bottom, all that. Dead grass, don't be afraid of it. That's probably one of the myths is, it's dead. There's no fish here. And I've done very well in that kind of condition.
Yeah, Jeff, let me dive in on that. You said depending on how long it's dead. Like, what does that have to do with it? Is it early death? Like, is it consuming oxygen? If it's been dead a while, is it better? What's the difference?
For me, I found it's easier to fish with a lure when it's kind of somewhat solid, not just a very soft, mucky product. Once it starts breaking down, it's hard to fish. It catches on your lures a lot more. When it first dies, typically it wind rolls. I like to fish a lot of wind rolled dead plants that roll up into the grass and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you have a nice tough mat at first. You have some habitat. But once it starts breaking up, sunlight comes through it. I've found the fish don't utilize. I'm sure some are, and I'm sure some bluegill and some smaller fish do. But I always find the later in the life cycle, the death cycle, I should say, of dying plants, I find it harder to fish because it catches on the lures so much.
Gotcha. Well, Rich, you got some IMs on dead grass?
Jeff, I do. Lil Buck 3 on the message board wants to know on the topic of dead grass and grass dying off. How long does it take for the grass underneath of a canopy of grass to start to thin out?
Oh, yes. Doesn't take long. When something like hydrilla is growing and it's coming up and starting the canopy over, you'll start seeing the leaves drop within a few days, and you'll just have nothing but a stem underneath that canopy. Your pond weeds do the same thing. I'm not so familiar with their milfoils, but I imagine they have to because there's no light under there when it starts canopying up like that. So the leaves start shedding right away, and if you let it, I don't know how long it takes actually. I'm trying to think of Louisiana might have done a study on that, the university out there. But I'll have to look the details of that one up. I'm going to write that one down, too.
And a question from Ricky Clemens. He wants to know, can a lake or pond have too much grass?
That's a good question.
Sure, unless you're a duck hunter. How are you going to fish it when it's got too much grass in it? That's hard to do. Yeah. Plus, you're totally changing the ecosystem. And any balances, you're really driving it to depends on the grass and what's the time. If it's solid cattails, how are you going to fish that? Or if it's solid hydrilla or milfoil, now everything's topped out. And oxygen underneath it's going down, and how do predators have to move around? They like the edges. They don't like it full. They like the holes in the edges.
Yeah. That actually, I'm glad that question was asked, because it leads to a note that I had here, Jeff, that I want to ask you. And it really, you hear more about it in the state of Florida probably than anywhere. And that's spraying. That's spraying, right? And I know there's got to be a balance, between, the biology side of it and the state management and what you just said, which is creating edges, creating lanes, creating navigation, right? I know there's got to be a balance there, but my experience with spraying has always been negative, and people that I run into has been negative. I can't tell you how many, going back to the state of Florida, how many people I've met in Florida that say they're killing this lake. They're killing this lake with all the spraying. Talking about Kissimmee or Toho or the Harris Chain or Tiger Lake or any of those in the system. Talk to me a little bit about that, because it's always seemed like it's held a negative connotation in my book. But how does spraying affect fish and fishing?
Yeah, that's a good topic, and we may have to. You could do a whole show on that topic. The bottom line is it's been controversy for years, that whole subject. As an angler, why the plants die? It's not really you really have to you don't care why they're dead. Now you're having to fish dead plants, and the fish have to live with those dead plants. There is management that's needed. I know most of the folks that do the management, they're doing it with good intent. There is good strategy. There's all kinds of meetings and going on. But again, we're trying. Why that controversy is going to be there, how much and why. I'm not trying to answer that one, but I am trying to say, okay, anglers, now that it is dead, fish that edge. Fish that edge is created, because you're not killing all of it. If Mother Nature comes in and takes out more than what they treated, well, that's Mother Nature doing it too. So that's a very complex system. You have to look at each lake. As anglers, we're coming into these lakes in a cycle. We don't know if the cycle is going up or down, and we come in, we fish it, and we leave. But that lake's going through a huge cycle. Maybe it was just topping out. You don't know. You have to look back maybe months to years to see what cycle you're entering into. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it is.
Jeff, does the spray itself, does the chemical they use repel fish? Because that's the other one I've heard a lot. I've heard, I can remember stories of Okeechobee where they come in and spray the hyacinths because the hyacinths have matted an entire bay, and they'll come in and spray the hyacinths. And for weeks after that initial spray, the guides and the local anglers are saying, you can't catch them in here. They've moved, or they've shut down, or they won't bite in here because it's been sprayed, and it takes recovery time for those fish to get back. Does the chemical itself repel fish and put them in a negative mood?
The chemical itself, not that I've seen, no. And matter of fact, Gary Klein's story you just mentioned will prove it was managed water hyacinth that he won that tournament in.
It was.
So, yes, there's your answer right there.
Interesting.
Jeff, I want to circle back to something that Pete mentioned early on. He was talking about, and he even used the same word that I wanted to use, hierarchy. The hierarchy of vegetation, because as a Florida bass angler, I don't get to fish drop-offs or creek channels or anything like that. I have an occasional boat dock, but everything else is pretty much vegetation. Should I be thinking about the different types of vegetation that I'm encountering in Florida and saying to myself, okay, hydrilla is number one where I can find it, and eelgrass is number two where I can find it? Or do I have to kind of go with the flow through the seasons? And I realize this is probably as much or more a bass question as it is a vegetation question.
Sure. Wow. Again, depending on the lake, and are you on the bank trying to fish it? Or are you in a boat trying to fish it? There's a lot of anglers that are bank fishing, kayak fishing. It depends on that lake. What is the dominant plant? How odd or is that one species that you found? How Is it a monoculture of solid lily pads? Well, that may not be good. That one single group of pondweed may be better because of that. So there's a lot to analyze. I spent a lot of time analyzing that, and don't get hung up on that as an angler. I found I overthought it and overanalyzed, and instead of fishing it and just letting the fish tell me which one they wanted. Now, once you figure out and you get bit, which then you can look around the lake, and if you kind of get to know your species of plants, you can understand why was he in that. Hopefully it's she. Hopefully it's a big bass. Why was she in that group, that plant group right there? What's unique about that in my lake?
Let me ask you this about plant groups, and because when we go down to Florida, that's what we look for, right? That's a big thing. Like a lily pad next to a reed, next to a hydrilla clump, you get 3 plants together, a mixing of vegetation. Why is that important? Fish always seem to use that.
I think that's just nature in general. That's just the way most animals work. They do want a combination like that, some type of dual habitat. Because think about it, one may be holding some of your bluegill because they like to hide in certain types of plants. And remember, I'm telling you about the form of the plant. Is it a complex plant? Is it a single leaf plant? Some of your species, some of your killifish they'll hang on the grass, the bottom where there's very little plant sticking up. Your bluegill like the very complex plants that have branches. Your red ear, they can handle out in the open water with just a little bit of hydrilla on it, or stonewort or anything like that. So it's hard to break it down. I thought we had some photos. Maybe we could talk about that, but you could see the complex nature of some pondweed versus eelgrass or something like that.
We do have some photos.
Let's see some photos.
Where would you like to start?
Let's talk about the pondweed. I have a picture of me holding the pondweed up. Illinois pondweed. It should be.
Right there, right, yeah, that one there, yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 second to do this, that, and then that.
There it goes.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, it does look familiar.
Yeah, it does.
That's what we call aquarium grass at the local holes.
Aquarium grass.
Is that right?
I mean, it looks like the stuff that grows in Newton Creek in the back.
Mike, you know that place that I took you to that we won't speak of?
Yeah.
Is that what that is right there?
No, that's no.
Okay.
Well, if you can see, there are on the left-hand side, you can see the seed. That's the seed head, and it's called peppergrass for a reason. It looks like a pepper seed. That's the Illinois pondweed. You have 3 or 4 versions of that up there where you are. You have curly leaf,
Yeah.
some other pondweeds. Mm-hmm. So that's what it looks like. You see that form. It's very similar to your milfoil.
Yeah.
So if you have that nearby, and like you said, your milfoil's dropping off, I don't think pondweed's as salt tolerant, so you'd have to go probably more in the fresh water to get it.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what your fish are doing. Maybe the salt's bothering them too, because don't forget, they have to regulate salt out of their body. The more salt in their body, the more they bloat, the more they swell up with water. So they don't like that always.
Yeah, that's an interesting. The pondweed or peppergrass, Pete. We have a lot up here. We call curly cabbage, which I don't know if it looks similar, but it.
Yes, I believe it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same genus. It's the different species.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dave Hall has a great question. He asks, is a black Senko always the best bait for grass? Yes, it is, Dave.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for that question.
Black Senko.
But if you see the way I took that picture, that's the way. If you want to send a picture of plant to be identified, take a picture where you can see the leaves, you can see the parts, spread it out in your hand, you can kind of see it. If there's no flowers, that's okay. But if you can spread it out, that would be a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Brian, do you have an image of hydrilla that you can pull up?
I do have.
Yeah, we got one. Let's look at that.
I want to,
because
everybody that I talk to, every time they see milfoil or any grass for that matter, they say, "Oh, the hydrilla. I was fishing in the hydrilla."
Yeah.
But I want to show people what hydrilla actually looks like.
That is hydrilla. That's an image of great image of hydrilla right there. And I can tell you the feel of hydrilla versus milfoil is totally different.
Yeah.
If you're fishing milfoil and your lure runs through it, a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, a swim jig, even a worm, it's soft. Milfoil's soft. It pulls through softly. But when you're fishing that image right there, which is hydrilla, and your lure comes through that, it's spiny. It's hard, and your lure actually pulls through hard, if that makes any sense. But they feel completely different as your bait goes through them.
Yeah, it snaps through this.
Yes.
Yeah. You have up there, you have two other grasses that look just like hydrilla. You have Elodea and Egeria. Those are soft versions. Those are very soft versions of what looks like to be hydrilla. But it's the same form to the plant.
We get a hydrilla looking plant, and maybe one of the ones you just spoke of that grows around us a lot on the Potomac and the Chesapeake estuaries. But it doesn't canopy. It like grows really tight to the bottom and plumes up. But it never ever has a canopy under it. But it looks exactly like hydrilla.
Huh.
Send me a picture.
Well, it would look just like what you saw.
Well, it might be, yes, the Elodea and Egeria tend to grow just up a few feet. They don't tend to do like hydrilla.
Interesting.
There's always exceptions to every rule.
Yeah.
Plants do funny things.
I'm sure. Riz, do we have some IM questions?
Yes, we do. Mike on the message board wants to know if floating grass clumps also hold oxygen, and if those floating grass clumps hold oxygen, will the fish stay with them?
Mike.
Floating grass clumps.
Yes.
I wonder if they mean that. Do they mean tussocks, like we have in Florida, mat tussocks? Or do they mean like a water hyacinth that's floating on the surface? I'm not sure what they mean by that one.
Floating grass clumps. So
I imagine let's go with water hyacinth.
Yeah.
I think I have a picture of that. That has a
set up for it.
Yeah, let's see. There's hyacinth. That's a great image right there. That's a hyacinth, Matt. Perfect.
It's almost like a iceberg, because there's a whole root system underneath there that is holding all kinds of aquatic life. The bad part of it is it's almost, I did a paper on it once. I think it's the top 4 fastest growing plants in the world.
Wow.
So it will, I've seen studies in Okeechobee, it will double in biomass in 3 or 4 days, 5 days, something like that, with less than a week, double.
Wow.
So if you have an acre, you could have 2 acres in a week.
That's
one
crazy.
of that's down here in Florida. I think bamboo is one of the fastest, and behind it's water hyacinth.
Wow.
The
hyacinth's incredible. I've seen acres and acres and acres of it, and it's interesting when you look at it from the bottom. It almost looks like a jellyfish, right? It looks like it's got these root tentacles that are just unbelievable. It's an awesome plant, man. Invasive and awesome, just like the zebra.
Exactly. I love fishing it, but I hate to deal with it. It's not a good plant to deal with.
Well, speaking of plants that are tough to deal with, fishing lily pads, it's Ken Duke's favorite thing to do. And
lily pads are overrated.
What? Give us some plant tricks. How do you get your line from getting stuck in the crotch of the lily pad?
You fish the lotus species. You don't fish the fragrant water lily or the spatter docks. You fish the species that's easier to fish.
Talking about spatter docks, huh?
That's a trick.
I think we have a picture there with the 2 of them.
There we go.
2 different lily pads.
Water lily.
And you can see the fragrant has a little split in it, but I think I have one that has lotus and spatter dock, which is the cow lily. One sticks up out of the water. One we call flat pads down here in Florida.
Yeah.
There they go. Yeah.
That's the lotus.
Yeah.
Very
interesting.
Very, very interesting.
We were talking about the hydrilla, Mike, and I gotta say, you do something so cool when it's fishing around hydrilla. You snap that crankbait out of there like when you won in Seminole.
Yeah.
And of all the techniques that all the guys, I can usually duplicate it. Like I can figure a way out and make that bite happen. I promise you, I can't figure out how you're triggering those strikes in that height.
Yeah, it's a very violent way to fish, but
Yeah.
That's a breakdancing reflexes.
it could be the reflexes, but that bait snapping out of grass, the ability for that lure to create a reaction strike, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And Pete, we've talked about this before in BU, but I get the question all the time is, why not fish braid? You're using a crankbait and hydrilla. Why not fish braid? You wouldn't have to work as hard. You rip it out with braid. It comes through super clean. Why not braid? And, my answer has always been, and I've seen it in enough shallow, clear water situations, that when you hit braid, when you snap braid out of hydrilla, there's no stretch to that braid, so it shoots it forward. It rips it, pulls it forward, straight out, no stretch. But when you're using mono or fluorocarbon, because that line has stretch to it, when you rip it out of that, especially when you use that upward rod kind of jerk, it rubber bands, so it snaps up and out of the hydrilla. And that motion is the key to that technique. That technique is it coming out of the grass up and out, not ripping forward. And it's tired. You'll be tired. You'll be tired after 30 minutes of doing it. But I've caught a lot of fish fishing that way.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
I learned something new. I'm glad I tuned in to Bass you.
I did real quick. I checked one of the social media platforms, Jeff, and we had a question that basically said, "How deep can grass grow?" It's probably one of our northern subscribers. Lakes up here that have 80, 90, 100. A lot of the Great Lakes, the natural lakes up here, the Finger Lakes, have 80, 90, 100 foot of water in them. How deep can grass physically grow?
Oh, that depends on the light level. So
light.
You've heard of a Siki disc, a black and white round disc that you lower into the water to see the water visibility. So you can take that level, when you could drop it down to where you can no longer read it, that's the depth of a Siki disc. And most of your universities and lake river keepers and whatnot do that on your system. If you figure, let's say it's 8 feet deep, you can pretty much triple that, and now you're down to about the 1 to 5% light level. So below that, plants have to photosynthesize. You won't find them pretty much below that. Now, anything below that light level is now decomposition and bacteria and low oxygen. That's where all the bad stuff or the breakdown happen. But yeah, so I'd say about almost 3 times your Siki depth. That's pretty much what it is.
Wow.
I know we get that shrimp grass. That's what we call it. We call it shrimp grass.
Shrimp grass, stink grass, sand grass.
Stonewort is shrimp grass. Stink grass is Cara, and they're macro algae. They're big algae actually, but they're very beneficial. Yep, we got some pictures. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you knew this or if you noticed, Mike, because you're probably sitting far away from his picture, but Jeff has a Wrangler angler banner back there.
Yes. Oh man, that's that heyday of bass fishing to me. We've talked about this, but I'm going to tell you right now, that era of bass fishing, professional bass fishing, when I'm talking about the 80s through the 90s, that to me is the heyday of fishing. The Wrangler Angler program, the Federation, when there was no nation, no FLW bass, it was one unit. Man, that to me was the heyday of bass fish. I miss those days. I miss it. I remember the first thing I did, I got a 1985 used Toyota SR5 as my first vehicle right out of high school. This black pickup. The first thing I did before I put big tires on it, before I put a roll bar on it, the first thing I wanted to do was put a bass sticker on the back window. I wanted that BASS shield on the back window. Man, that was the heyday of bass fishing back then. I always think it will be till the end. That was the best era for bass fishing ever.
I agree. That's the whole reason I got into the whole science, is to learn more about bass and how to fish and catch them better. But that's what started it all off right there.
Speaking of a little reminiscing, I had this note down here, and I have to ask you. It's been bugging me for since the era we just talked about, for 30 years, 25 years. You ready for this, Jeff? And you got to be honest. This is BU Live is just like Ike Live. You can't lie.
Okay.
You can't lie. You got to be honest with me. When all that Dr. Lauren, what was his name? Dr. Lauren Hill stuff came out, the color selector, the pH meter. Was that bullshit or was that real? Because I got the color selector, and I feel like I might have got ripped off.
You did not. That's good money spent right there. I have one. I almost brought it here to show you.
Okay.
I have I keep it working. I keep it calibrated.
What?
Because mine tells me the pH and the light levels. That white part on there is a light meter, so you can actually drop it down to see how far your light is. And they use basically the color spectrum, whatever percentage light is there, shows you what colors are better at that level. So no, 100%, that is money well spent.
Wow.
Good.
And it has a pH meter on it too, if you kept it calibrated. But that is important too,
Yeah,
the pH of incoming water and that kind of thing.
I remember that. They had the combo selector, which was...
That's what I got. Oh,
Yes.
You didn't get it?
No, we were kind of poor in Runnymede there. I only had the color selector, and that was my big Christmas gift that year. So, but I did get the carrying bag for it as well. So I got to give a shout out to my mom for buying me that.
You
for Christmas that
absolutely
year.
still have that thing.
I probably have it somewhere. I got to find it because
Yeah.
I'd actually love to have it sitting on that shelf right there, Brian the Carpenter.
Yeah.
We got to find that.
There's no way
Can-
you don't
can-
have it.
I won mine in my TWB Bassmaster Club.
Wow.
I won it in the drawing.
Wow.
Can the pH meter can plants tell us what the pH is? Can you say, okay, well, these plants are growing here, so we've got a low pH, or these plants thrive in a higher pH? Are they an indicator of that?
So, some of them can be. I think I have a picture of Kabamba, a fanwort, they call it. I don't know if Brian has that one, but yes, that one likes the lower pH water. If you see that, it does not like high pH. So it kind of tells you it is a lower pH water. And a lot of times it tells you the water's not been moving. It's pretty stagnant, hasn't been moving in that area. It thrives in that kind of situation.
Fernwort.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Fanwort, yes.
Fanwort.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because I don't have a color selector with a pH meter, so I need some help in that arena.
Get one, Pete.
There you go. Some of those plants.
Pete's color selector would always say black Senko. So
Yeah. Pete's color selector.
Throw rust.
it's rusty color selector.
Rust-colored Senko.
That'd be my new color. I like that. My new color is like
Let me.
Ike Shorts loves this talk about the old school Wrangler stuff. Said Ray Scott, baby. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I just like that Ike Shorts is chiming in on the IM board.
Ike shorts. I know they're short. They're short. They're not Tommy Biffle short, but they're short. Let me remind everybody you're watching a brand new episode of Bash U Live. We've got a lot of synergy, energy going on here about grass. We're talking to Mr. Jeff Holland. If you've got a question, please hit us up on the IM. Riz, what do we got coming through? We got anything good popping in? What do we got?
Sure do. I just want to take a second and remind everybody over there on Facebook, make sure to like and share tonight's feed. Get entered in for a chance to win an awesome prize pack from us that consists of a Minn Kota hat, Ike's Signature Series sunglasses, and a Flambeau box.
Ooh.
I might have said the prize pack differently at the beginning of the show, but we'll sort that out one way or the other. The value will be the same. But yeah, like and share tonight's feed so that your buddies that you fish with that never catch them, they might have a shot at catching them next time you go out. But the next question is going to be from Dennis Blankenship on the message board, and he wants to know, Jeff, why is hydrilla considered as an invasive species in some northern states?
Mainly because it originates down in Southeast Asia and other places outside the U.S.
Hence invasive.
Yeah. When did hydrilla? I mean, was there a time when it started, or has it been here, for a million years, or when?
No, from what I understand, it came in the 70s. Through maybe possibly it's been alleged it came in through the aquarium and someone dumped the aquarium in a canal. But I don't know. That's what I've read on it. So it is an invasive. Comes in. The thing is, it grew in a place, Southeast Asia, where it outcompeted. So it is a superstar amongst aquatic plants. Every little, you'll see a node in that picture. Every one of the places where the leaves come off, every one of those, you can break them up, and every one of them is a brand new plant. It's just, you cannot kill it pretty much once you get it.
Well, that's an argument that we've talked about before, Pete, on BU. We talked about on Ike Live as well, which is are some invasives good, right? Or some exotics and invasives a good thing? Because I've argued, and I hopefully, somebody's not listening that disagrees with this, and they're going to come shoot me later here, but I've argued that zebra mussels have been a good thing for some of our fisheries. I've argued that gobies have been a great thing for some of our fisheries. Is that the same for exotic and invasive grasses as well? Are they a good thing in some cases?
There's always a trade, Mike. If you bring in an exotic and you shift an ecosystem, you're going to lose something else. So you're taking, I used to love fishing and wade fishing in Lake Cypress. I'm wading the shorelines in there, and you can hardly do it now because it's so mucky bottom, whatnot. So you change the habitat. You're going to lose something when you bring in an invasive. There's no way around it.
Right.
Is that good or bad? If that's good or bad, that's a human decision. But ecology is definitely going to change.
Huh.
Mike brings up an interesting point with the invasive species thing, but Mike, we can carry this thing as far as you want to go in the world of the bass as a species. Pretty much any bass you've ever caught west of the Mississippi River was invasive. It was probably carried there in the 1860s and 70s or sometime much later.
Yeah.
All the giant fish, 15 pounds plus, that have come out of California came because of a guy named Orville Ball, who brought them in from Florida in the 50s.
Yeah.
Japan, everywhere that has bass that's not the eastern U.S.
Oh, yeah.
They're invasive.
Yeah.
It's interesting because all the bass that are in Lake X near Mike's house are invasive.
They are.
Yeah.
Brought in from other bodies of water.
They are invasive. No, I can testify to that, Ken. I spent some time in Japan, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and oh my gosh, they're so ruthless over there with bass. They want you to catch and kill the bass, I remember being over there, and I caught my first bass in Japan, and there was somebody walking the bank that wasn't a fisherman that saw me catch that bass, and they just went, no, none, 0, 0, 0, 0, none.
This is my wife is Japanese, and so we go to Japan quite often, and this is my special little bass, the invasive species.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's that.
I'm telling you, they're that. They a lot of places, they want them. They want you to kill them. I remember being on Lake Biwa, and the deal was if you were with a guide, you were allowed to catch them and put them back if you were with a certified guide. But if you were not with a guide, you were required by law to catch and keep and kill that fish. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
A lot of the guys who do fish out on Biwa, where the world record came from,
yes,
22.5. A lot of the guys out there, they do their best Jim Bitter impersonation after they catch a fish. They oops. My apologies, Jim.
Yeah.
My apologies, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, don't apologize to Jim Bitter. He's bitter. He's been bitter ever since that happened.
Maybe he's not in his retirement.
I don't know, man. He was pretty nasty to me a couple times. I can tell you that. Now his brother, I like a lot, but Jim, I don't know.
Speaking of being nasty, I have been treated nasty at the boat launch by DNR officials because I have a sprig of Eurasian milfoil.
Oh yeah,
that's my prop.
Big up here. The further north you get, Pete, the more it seems like that's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, what? I mean, is that really? Can I control the spread? I mean, that milfoil grass is going to get spread by ducks, geese. I don't know. How does it spread? Are the boaters really?
It fragments. It's like the hydrilla. It fragments too. So yes, if it's laying between your boat and the pad, and you launch, and then it's wet and moist, and the next morning you launch at a different boat ramp, very, very easily, it's still within 24 hours, very easily that could spread into the new lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a way of trying to control it. It's just a management plan.
Jeff, as long as that little sprig or something of the hydrilla or the milfoil stays damp, is that how long it's viable, basically?
Yes. If it totally desiccates and dries out, unless it's the actual tuber, there's also some kind of root crowns and stuff that can live through that and resprout. But yeah, if it's dried out, it's pretty much gone. It's 80%, 90% of hydrilla is water.
Let me ask you this, and this
So if
this
you want to spread it, keep it wet. Okay.
Oh, hey. You're gonna shift the ecosystem, and that may not be a good thing.
I know a couple ecosystems that could really use it.
when do you avoid grass? When do you stay out of the grass? When do you say, hey, from a fishing perspective, that I've got to go to wood, I've got to go to rock? When how do you determine that?
I seek it out everywhere I go. So, because that's what I know. I went to Lewis Smith and tried to find. I found grass beds in Lewis Smith up in Alabama where it's all rock and sand, and it's when I find it, there's fish using it. But I seek it out. And the only time I avoid it is if I'm trying to learn how you all do throw a crankbait with a lipped crankbait, because you can't do that much here in the grass. It hangs up. But
let me give you one of my experiences up here in the north, and I've seen this a number of times in grass beds. And I avoid grass, and it's in a cold front situation. I've found that fishing patterns, when you get these blistering cold fronts coming through in spring in particular, the grass pattern is always the first one to go south. And so I get out of it. I fish rock, I fish wood when I run into that situation. And I just wonder if there's a scientific explanation why during cold front scenarios the bass just leave it, the bait leaves it. I'm not sure which.
They bury so far in it that it's hard to present the bait. It's hard to get them to eat. I know in Florida, I stink in Florida, by the way. When a cold front scenario in Florida, the only way I could catch them is by flipping in vegetation. But I mean, like in the thickest, nastiest, and that's probably what happens here too, Pete. And you just can't get to them as well.
Yeah, that whole scenario of fish behavior. Now you're talking something that Pete, you and Mike know a lot more than I do. The plants helped me on the Southern Open tour a little bit, but when it comes to knowing fish behavior, that is a whole another level of the ball game here. There's a whole career I could try and now learning that. That's my next career, probably trying to learn that.
Yeah, I can tell you. I'll tell you one other interesting story real quick about how important grass is. And Ken, you mentioned it. 90% of the tournaments where grass is a player, it's won out of grass. I think that's a great stat. Another story I have is, when you're fishing in the winter, and Pete, we've got great seminars on Bass University about fishing the cold water period, fishing the winter, whether it's in the Midwest or up here or even in the South. Look for the deepest, most vertical break area of the lake. We've got all these great videos on it. But when grass is a player in that winter period, if that grass is still alive, dude, those fish will be in shallow water. I've seen it in ice fishing. I've seen it so many times ice fishing where bass and bluegill, it's the dead of winter. You're fishing through the ice, for crying out loud. And instead of being on those deep vertical breaks like they're supposed to be, they're up on those shallow flats in 6, 8, 10 foot of water because the grass is still alive under that ice. And that's a great testament to how important it is. Jeff, you mentioned it. It's the beginning of the circle of life. All the life is based around grass. That's why it's so important. And I just think if it's there, you got to fish it. If you've got grass in a system, you've got to go throw at it. It's that important.
Yes, I agree.
Speaking of systems that hold grass,
can't hear you, Riz.
Speaking of systems that hold grass, Andre on the message board wants to know Talk a little bit about rivers and lakes and what types of different grasses grow to each of them specifically.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's all about the form of the grass. If the river is flowing, then you're not going to have the highly branched grass species. You're going to have the thin eel grasses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When it's slow flow and kind of, or the lake part where there's really no flow, then you can get your more complex grass species to grow and the ones that can branch out.
Yeah.
Well, we've learned a ton about grass, Jeff, and I certainly appreciate you
Awesome.
taking some time.
Yeah, seriously.
It was pretty much the best 40 minutes I've had it on BU in a long, long time. I'm not kidding you. I really, I appreciate it. I was looking so forward to talking with you, Jeff, and I know our viewers and listeners appreciate it as well.
Yes.
What an education, what the knowledge you have. Unbelievable. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight and helping us.
Some mega juice in there too.
Thank you. I just hope I was able to inspire some anglers to really get to understand their plants. They can tell a lot of a neat story, and they can help you catch more fish.
There you have it, everybody. The one and only Jeff Holland on BU Live tonight. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So awesome. Let me remind everybody, I know you're looking at your watch and you're saying, man, this is unbelievable material. Might be getting a little late. But don't go anywhere because, man, we got another great grass expert coming up from the other side. Now we're going to be talking the tournament side, and we've got one of the best, Pete Glusick, at fishing grass, Mr. Bryan Schmitt, joining us. Pete, how many tournaments has Bryan Schmitt won out of grass, especially on tidal water? Too many to count.
Well, I think he's won 9 tournaments, and I would bet that not all 9 of them are out of the grass.
It's unbelievable. He is
awesome.
He is a master of it. He is the best at it. He's going to go down in the history books as being one of the best tidal water fishermen and the best grass fishermen. We got him here on the show coming up in a little bit, Pete. You want to take a break? What do you want to do?
We ready? Yeah. Let's
All
take
right,
a break.
let's take a break. Hang in there with us. When we come back, more aquatic grass with Bryan Schmitt on BU Live.
Gerald Swindle, Bass UTV. I'm telling you right now, if you ain't watching it, you're like trying to put 3 pair of socks on 1 foot, man. You got to get part of it. You got to get on here and learn. If you got any doubt about flipping, pitching, we got it on Bass UTV. We got Bobby Lane. We got everybody you can imagine doing what they're the best at. You want to learn how to flip? Check out Hackney, huh? Don't get no slower than that. We got it all. BUTV offers A to Z bass fishing from beginner to the highest level. We have it on BUTV. Check it out online. Enjoy the laughs, but really enjoy the outdoors and fish. That's all we're asking. We want you to fish and we want you to watch BUTV.
I can vividly remember back when I was a kid and, searching for information. And it was so much work and it was such a struggle to get that knowledge, to get that information.
We talked about the equipment. We talked about the bait. We talked about how to pick it apart.
It's highly detailed, specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly. That's what the Bass University is all about.
Mics are hot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Bass U Live. I hope you're having a fabulous Tuesday. I know for sure we are. You got a good one here tonight. You're involved in the Aquatic Vegetation segment of BU Live here tonight. And we've just had a great guest on, Mr. Jeff Holland, taking the biology of grass and really, really lighten us up. Wasn't that good?
That was outstanding.
So much knowledge right there, and I just feel dumb. I feel dumb. I fished my whole life, but I didn't know some of that stuff, and for sure, it's appreciated. And we're about to have Bryan Schmitt on here, Riz.
We've got him
and
on.
It's going to get good. It's going to get real good.
In this segment, I want to hear Brian's names for some of these grasses, because I'll tell you one thing. I traveled around a bit this year.
Yeah.
And I heard some of the craziest names for grass that you have ever heard.
Right. Well, everybody's got their own name.
You know, hollow bottom snap pea. Like,
yeah.
Like I was looking at some of these guys in Alabama. Like, how'd you come up with that?
Yeah.
Where's the words there? But so now we actually know. We learned what they're called.
Yeah, we learned the scientific name. I don't know if it matters, but that was great. Let me remind you, if you're watching right now, if you've got a question, if you've got a comment, please, 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 we want to hear from you. Hit us up on the IMs. Riz is going to be taking them nonstop.
Great time to take advantage of Bass UTV right
It
now,
is.
too.
It is.
Because, folks at home, if you sign up annually for Bass UTV right now, we're going to hook you up with the new camouflage Bass UTV official hat, and we're going to send you some Spro Frogs.
Whoa.
Because it is the frog days of summer.
Wow.
I'll try to get a Spro Frog.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. All right, we've got him on. I want to get right to him. Joining us live right now is the one and only BASS Elite Pro, Mr. Bryan Schmitt, joining us.
Yeah.
What's up?
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, thanks for coming on. What timing? I think this is the perfect storm here with you competing in the Ike Foundation event over the past weekend. And by the way, thank you for helping with that. I mean, honestly, your participation means so much, supporting kids fishing. Thank you. But almost a win there, Bryan, real close. You're probably, I don't know, one fish away from a win there. And I mentioned to you at that show, you have this magical connection with tidal water, for sure. But deeper than that, you have a magical connection to grass. And what great show to have you on to talk about that. I want to start right there. I called you to the plate at the Ike Foundation tournament. I'm going to call you to the plate again. What's up? Why? Why do you and grass love each other? Why do you understand? Tell me, how is it possible that you're so good at grass fishing? I got to know this.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like if you have grass, fish are going to use it, so it simplifies everything for me, if that makes any sense. Yeah. You know, if there's grass in a system, they have to use it. I mean, almost all year. It filters the water. It provides habitat for all the food. You know, it multiple ambush points. It's just everything they need. So for a guy like me that grew up fishing, you know, shallow and grass, it just simplifies things. And I just seem to just find a way to make it work. Like if there's grass on any fishery, I am going to fish it. And sometimes to the fall, you know, but that's it. Determined to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. The first thing that pops in my mind, I know, is what a lot of people watching right now. They're watching right now. They're listening. They're saying, "Man, I wish I could figure that out. I wish I could have that confidence." They catch them in grass once in a while, but they can't consistently do it. And their question is the same as mine. When you get to a place, Bryan, that has a lot of grass, right? The flats we just fished is a great example. You look out at that flat. It's freaking 20 square miles of milfoil right now. Or you get to the Potomac and you're on a flat that runs for 10 miles of grass. It could be milfoil, it could be hydrilla, it could be pads on the James River. You're in the Chickahominy. You look down, there's pads for freaking 3 miles. How does an angler go about finding the juice? Because that is, you're really good at that. You're really good at figuring out where in that 20 miles, where in that 3 mile stretch is the best place in that grass. How does a guy approach that?
it's a simple approach, and I agree. A lot of people get overwhelmed when you get to these places that have a lot of vegetation. You have to find something different. It's as simple as that. If everything looks the same, it's not the same. There's something different.
Change.
Is there deeper change?
Yeah. Yeah. An element of change in the grass.
What kind of change are you looking for in a big grass bed like that?
It could be a depth change where deeper water touches it, or shallow water touches it, or a sandbar as it was on the Ike event. Something that creates a different, I don't know, something that makes that massive grass bed different. The fish are going to find something different eventually, and they're going to use it to their advantage. So, when you're relating to spawning fish in grass, they need some protection. So, obviously, they're probably not on the furthest out grass. They're going to be on the shallower part of it, and then you get to the post spawn, maybe they're going to be on the outer realm. And then, in the post spawn event, okay, maybe where the deepest water touches the grass. Just any kind of change, you have to start there.
Change. Yeah. That's a key word, Pete. We've heard that before at Bash U. We've
That's
heard
your
it with, we've heard it with ledge fishing. We've heard it with fishing docks, and now we're hearing it with grass.
The same.
Yeah.
Yep, it's the same thing.
So key. I know I'm sort of the question hog right now. I've got so many for you. Give us I know a lot of our guys listening right now, a lot of our viewers are listening and saying, all right, I get it. They're in grass. Obviously, they live in grass. I need to get better at finding change in the grass. But now they're saying, what the hell do I throw at them? Bryan, I want to hear, give us your pecking order of grass baits. Give us your top 5. Give us your deadly 5 grass baits that everybody's got to have in their boat if they're fishing grass.
Top 5 is very easy for me. It's a swim jig. It's a chatterbait. It's a missile 48. It's a stick bait style. It's a missile D-bomb for flipping, and a frog. I mean, it's simple. That's what I'm going to attack it with, and I'm going to let the fish tell me.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that because it keeps it simple.
Yeah. Simple.
I was thinking for a second I had to have 40 rods on the deck. I like that a lot better.
And I've had the mentality that wherever I go, I'm going to make them eat those baits, and eventually you're going to strike out here and there, but somewhere, somehow, those baits will work. You just haven't found the fish that want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm going to take it one step further because we had a comment come through, and I want to take it one step further. Give me one bait for each of these 3 specific grasses. I want you to give me your top bait for these 3 specific types of vegetation. Milfoil, hydrilla, and pads. Give me your top bait for each one of those 3.
Milfoil. I would have to say a jig.
Ooh.
Yeah.
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 A swim jig or a regular jig, Bryan?
Man, can I get them both?
Yeah, I think you can. I think we'll allow that.
Talk a little bit about a regular jig and what you're doing with that in milfoil.
So, we'll rewind real quick to the tournament we just had on the Upper Bay, and I was keying in on milfoil, and on low tide, I would stop swimming my jig, and I would actually just flip it to clumps and let it sit next to a clump. Just how you would take a regular 1/2 ounce or 3/8 ounce flipping jig.
Yeah.
And it's just something about that presentation that's always worked. So, if I could get a jig, I could pretty much do both of those techniques. I could swim it or flip it.
Yeah.
Depending if it's not too thick.
Yeah, that's awesome too, because I think a lot of times guys see that grass, whether it's milfoil or patches of hydrilla or whatever it is, and Texas rigging, flipping, punching has become so popular now. I think a lot of people forgot about a jig. Forgot about that profile of a jig around that cover. So that's awesome. That's a great tip.
It's just that, Mike. That's worked forever, and that catches the right fish.
Yes, bigger than average fish. Yep. All right. Hydrilla and Pats, top bait.
Hydrilla, chatterbait, and 48. Depending on the depth. Sometimes they want something slow near the hydrilla. Sometimes they want something fast that draw them out of the hydrilla. So chatterbait would probably be the number one in hydrilla.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And how about pads, Brian?
Give me a frog. Yep.
Yeah.
Give me a spro frog.
Yeah. Spro frog.
A popping frog? A walking frog? So spro popping frog.
Yes, sir.
That's a good
Brian,
one.
you surprised me a little bit when you were listing your favorite grass baits. You led off with a swim jig, and I'm a Florida guy. Jeff Holland, who is just on the program, he lives in Florida, and I think the swim jig is probably underappreciated in Florida. I think that not as many guys throw it as probably should. We're opting instead for something like a speed worm or something like that. Well, and this sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it is nothing but praise, my friend. You got a great track record in Florida for a guy who's not from here.
I appreciate that, my friend. Yes, sir.
No, it's really impressive because a lot of guys hate Florida.
I do.
Yeah, Pete's not a fan of Florida. Mike's had a world of success everywhere, but Florida is not high on his list. How is Florida different, or some of the lakes where grass is not just the primary cover, but just about the exclusive cover? What are you looking for there? Are you still trying to find that something different?
Yeah. So I think it was last year we were on the Harris chain, and it was just massive amount of grass out to 14, 15 foot. And it was even overwhelming for me for a little bit. But once I found the change that they were relating to, I could find more of it. And, it's just one of them things. They're in it. You just have to figure it out. You can't let it overwhelm you. But you have to figure out what they are using. Are they using an edge, a trench, shorter grass, thicker grass? They're going to use something more than others. So especially on places that have a lot like that did. And then it became a lot of fun once you figured it out. But Florida is still tricky to me. Don't get me wrong, because it can humble anybody. They can move overnight. But the Tohos and the Harris chains that just have abundance of grass out to deep water, I'm very comfortable. Okeechobee's a little tricky because, the wind can just wipe it out for you there. But those places I just named, I like them a lot, and I've come to figure them out a little bit.
Yeah, I want to real quick just continue with the swim jig, and this is a question for me, which is how to fish a swim jig. It's like I always see this argument between the northern guys that fish a swim jig a little different and your southern guys that fish it different, right? So northern guys I see fishing a lot more where they almost slow wind it, just steady, right? They're still trying to deflect it in the grass, but they're slow and steady. And then I see these southern guys that they want to pop it. They put that rod high and they're shaking it as they reel it. Is there a right way and a wrong way, or what's the right time for each of those?
I think that's just like you said, it's a northern thing, southern thing. I've always done it the northern way, slow and low.
Yeah.
Finessier, lighter line. The southern guys, they got on a 50-pound braid. They're fishing 1 to 4 foot. They're keeping it above grass. They're doing the shake like you say.
Yeah.
And there's a place for both for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right way or wrong way. It's just what they're accustomed to catching fish in whatever cover or whatever depth. That's how they do it. And I've taken my technique down south and done well with it, and I've seen guys take their southern technique up here and do well with it. So
Wow.
You know, I'm not the southern way on that for sure.
Yeah. Real quick, you said something. Is fluorocarbon better than braid for that northern style swim jigging, or does that line choice matter?
I feel for me, 100%, it's a big key because a lot of places we fish up north, the water's very clean, you know, and the fluorocarbon also helps me get it deeper, keep it down a little bit deeper. Sometimes I'm swimming jigs 7, 8, 9 foot of water.
Yeah.
You know, braid would be tough to do that.
Right.
With.
Very interesting.
Brian, you guys watching this? Subscribers of Bass U TV, I want to invite you to go over and check out Brian's details on swimming a jig. We filmed with you on the water, actually on the Upper Chesapeake, not too long ago, and Brian gives some details and blew my hair back with some of the things that he does. And you know what's interesting, Brian? Exactly what you said, because we filmed with John Cox and about the swim jig as well, and he is keeping that jig high up in the water column for most of his fishing, really, really fast. And your style is, you know, counter to that. You're going very, very slow, and you guys both dominate tournaments. Both techniques are effective.
Yep.
I think he finds fish for his technique all the time, though. I don't always find fish for my technique all the time.
I think he's already doing that today at Chickamauga.
I think he is. Is he leading?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Is he leading?
Second place. Second.
He is, yeah.
Oh,
he's
second
in
place.
second?
Oh,
Okay.
unbelievable.
Yeah, come on,
He
John.
loves
Step
that
up.
lake.
Second place.
Wow.
Brian, tell us about your trailers and your jig selection, if you would.
Sure. So it's pretty simple with my trailers. It's a twin turbo from Missile or a Shockwave from Missile, a swim bait or a crawl. It's a simple approach. I match the colors, you know, from the jig to the trailer. If I'm shad oriented, crawdad oriented, or bluegill oriented, and it's simple, stupid there, you know, to be quite honest with you.
Keep it
Awesome.
simple.
I would like to welcome all the new subscribers to Bass University TV tonight, Mike. I had the opportunity here because I'm checking, and we've had a pile of people sign up that wanted to come over and learn grass fishing and talk to Brian and talk to Jeff. So welcome all the new people to Bass University
Welcome
TV.
to you.
Yes.
Love having you guys here. Do you guys have some IM questions?
I sure do. The Sly Arrow wants to know, Brian, what do you do to identify bottom changes inside of a giant grass bed?
So it depends how much detail you want to get into, but I've gotten pretty brazen with my means to find that. So where I go with that is I'll run right through the grass bed. I'll run right through it on plane, and luckily my sonar is picking up the bottom and on a massive grass bed. Okay. And I'm marking it while I'm running 20, 30 mile per hour. I'm marking any kind of bottom change. You know, if you get into a big amount of grass, you got to cut down the time, and that can help you, you know, not in too, you know, but deeper water grass for sure. That I'll do that, or it's just trial and error. You know, just get in there and start fishing. Always keep an eye on your sonar, though. You know, especially you get up north, you know, Champlains and Oneidas and stuff like that. Just a 1 foot little change in the middle of a grass bed. There's the glory hole right there.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip because it doesn't always have to be this obnoxious gully or valley or an obnoxious rise. Sometimes the most subtle stuff is better. The more subtle stuff is better. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
The subtle rocks on Lake Oneida that like to rip your lower unit off.
Yeah.
When you're going through the grass bed.
Absolutely. Rip that shit right off. Who cares?
I went through 2 last year.
What's that, Brian?
I went through 2 of them up there last year.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
Brian, I know you like the fluorocarbon for your swim jig. Is there a time when the grass ever gets so heavy, or you are going to fish the bait faster and shallower, that you might opt for braid?
100%. Yeah, especially in Florida, I would say a spawning situation where they get up in the junk. You know, I just feel so vulnerable with fluorocarbon, and I switched to the braid. It helps me also keep the bait clean. I got a little more power to pop the grass free, and hey, if a really big one grabs it and runs into the reeds, I have some power to get it out. You know, Florida, I've done that a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes you see guys learning how to swim in a jig make? What do you see?
You know, I've noticed that not sticking with it, you know, is one thing. Maybe just not getting around the fish quick enough to get the confidence in it. You know, that's a thing with, you know, any kind of technique. You got to get the confidence. And so you got to be around some fish, and then maybe fishing it too fast. You know, I've seen guys definitely fishing it too fast.
Pete, I just want to volunteer. If Bass U ever needs a tutorial on how not to fish a swim jig, you can just put a camera on me. Happy to volunteer.
That's funny. I want to ask Brian. We talked earlier when we had Jeff on the phone. Pete mentioned that there are times when he leaves the grass. He mentioned sometimes a cold front scenario. Pete will leave the grass. For me, I've seen muddy water. I've seen chocolate milk kill the grass. Talk to us about times when you just throw the white flag and you say, I'm out, and you go to hard cover, you go to something else. What are some of those scenarios?
100% muddy water. You hit it on the head. That's the kiss of death. Don't know how many times I've had a lot of confidence going into a tournament. I found them in a grass bed of some sort, and the mud's rolled in, and it's done. It's time to go, and you have to leave it. You have to leave it. You cannot force that issue. Listen to Mike. Listen to me right now. You have to leave it. Cold front, I've seen that as well. Kill grass, but I've also seen it help it in certain scenarios where you were catching them on the sparse edge or the sparse part of the grass bed, but you always knew there was a thick mat right there. You just weren't catching them. Well, the cold front put them there now, and it helps you. It helps position all the fish. So dirty water is probably the number one, Mike.
Yeah. I've seen that before. I've had the same experience. I've thought I was going to win, and then you get to that grass bed and it's chocolate milk, you know. And it seems like the heavier the mud, the more particles. You know, when you get that heavy silt, that heavy particle in there, that's when it kills it. You know, if it's a little dirt, if it gets a little dirty, I think you're still okay. There's sometimes a clean section of that grass you can move to, but that chocolate milk, forget about it. Forget about it. Riz, what do you got?
Skinny Pete on the message board wants to know, Brian, how long do you stay in a section of grass before moving on to another?
Wow. So it depends if I'm searching for fish or if I know they're there. So if I'm searching and it's a good time of year, fish are biting, I'm not going to give it long, man. I'm gonna cycle through my baits, you know, make maybe 2 passes on a key area, and I'm gone. If I know they're there and it's an event, it's a tournament, and it's tidal, and I don't want somebody to get on the spot, I might sit there all day. If it's not tidal and I know they're there, I'm going to probably give it, you know, a solid hour. You know, depending on, okay, did I catch these fish in the morning? I'm back there in the morning. they're not firing after hour, I'm gone. If I call them in the afternoon, vice versa. So, you know, it all depends if you're looking for them or you know they're there.
Good point. Good point. I've struggled with that. I think I've stayed too long, and the other times I think I've left too early. It's a hard decision. I want to change topics real quick, Bryan, and I want to talk to you about the elites. How's the transition to the Bass Elites been? You've competed at a lot of different high levels of different circuits, but talk about Bass. How's the move to Bass been for you?
It definitely seems like the place to be right now. I'm very, very satisfied to be where I'm at, Mike. I feel like there's a chance to build a name, you know, not fishing with 170 guys, which I was very glad to do that for a long time. But I feel like the window is open right now, you know, to where a guy can show up. If he catches them a little bit, you can get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I feel it's been well run so far. We've had kind of a crazy year. Everybody has, and I think Bass has done every step the right way so far, and I'm tickled to be there, man. I really am. Really hoping that we get to fish in New York here for 3 weeks, and everything like that. So I'm happy, all good.
Nice, good. And I know right now you're doing a little practicing at Lake Champlain. You might be looking for some grass out there.
Could be. Yep. We're taking it all in, you know, up here for a couple days. Kind of feel bad because I'm going to probably be leaving for 3 weeks. I feel bad leaving my family right now, but I, you know, only get one shot. So we're up here doing a little homework, man.
Yeah. Good for you. Wish you a lot of success in the next few events.
Is that a Marine Village cottage that you're staying in?
Do you guys know Carol Bucci, just up from Marine Village?
No.
Okay. Hey, well, just up from Marine Village, like right next door, I'm in a house.
Oh,
Very nice.
Nice.
Kind of looks like there's Marine Village cottage.
Yeah,
It's a cottage. Well, I say a house. It's a cottage that I'm in, but I'm right next door.
Nice.
Shout out to Marine Village.
It looks like Champlain.
Shout out Marine Village. If you guys still have my Lucky Bass U hat from last year,
I want it back.
Yeah, I want that MFer back.
I want that back as soon as possible.
Somebody's probably rocking that at Champlain, winning every Thursday nighter.
Could be.
So the house that I'm staying in, Dudley always stays here. He's won a bunch here. I stayed here when I won the Open, and Thrift stayed here last year when he won the Costa.
Wow. That's lucky.
Lucky house.
Holy crap.
Wow.
You get them statistics, Ken? Put that in the computer.
Lodging is my next big study.
Enter them into the file, Ken.
Then I'm going to go dessert toppings. So, you know, try to get it all.
I love it.
Rich, what do you got, buddy?
Got a question from Dustin Randall that has to do with tidal water fishing, and he wants to know: do you alter your approach to fishing grass when the tide is higher or lower? Do you prefer moving baits or bottom baits on either tide?
Good question. Real good question.
That's a very good question. So tidal, it's a funny game. So high tide obviously brings the water up higher. Sometimes over top of grass that normally wasn't, normally you couldn't work a bait over top of. So sometimes when the tide rises, the fish feel a little more comfortable. And so, a low tide confines them. In certain river systems, certain tidal systems, you want low tide, but there is a time that high tide can help you because some of these shallow fish that are in a shallow grass bed, now they're a little more comfortable. They got a little more water over their heads. You can cover a little more water with some baits over top of the grass. Low tide, I'm slowing down. I'm either flipping or, tossing around a worm real slow, or I'll frog as well if the grass is touching the surface. But high tide, I don't know. Sometimes I'll even move in a little further with the tide as it comes in, get a little bit further in the grass, and I'll start flipping as well. So you got to kind of play with that area that has fish. Sometimes, the low tide will pull them out to the edge. The high tide will pull them back into the thicker areas. So it's all different, a lot of different scenarios. Just got to play with it.
What was your patterns at the Chesapeake for your third place finish? Tied for second, really. But what were you swimming again? Were you chatterbait fishing? What were you doing?
So I went up on a Tuesday, and I hadn't been up in about a month, and I just ran around and threw a swim jig and a chatterbait. We had a lot of wind, so I wanted to find fish. That's all I wanted to do. I hadn't been up, and I was thinking, hey, it's mid-June. They're done. They're done spawning. Let's get on some deeper edges. And I got a lot of areas that I've done really well at, on some trenches and edges. And, dude, they weren't on it for me. I could not get that going. And I ended up going shallow. I had 4 places that I fished in the tournament that were shallower, and it was sparse milfoil, and every one of them were butting up to a sandbar, and I truthfully believe that fish were spawning. Every one I caught had a bloody tail, bleeding tails, and it was more of a worm deal for us. We caught a few on a chatterbait, none swimming a jig. It was slow presentation, and I just feel like they were spawning. But my whole key was sparse milfoil, which also makes me believe they're spawning. They weren't in any kind of thick cover to me. I wasn't on an edge. Where I fished, the fish had to swim a long ways from deep water to get to. And that was my pattern. Yep. And trying to stay away from boats.
Yeah.
Well, you had a gifted partner with Brooks Parker in your boat. It was probably hard for you to keep up with him.
He is 100% all business, and he caught the living crap out of him, man. I mean, he really did. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been impressed with him every time I've had him on my boat. The first time I did, I was very impressed, and after the tournament, he's got what it takes, for sure. He's definitely got the hunger. He's got the skill set. So he's a talented fisherman.
Yep, he's about to be 16 years old. He's just a kid, but he's a super angler.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Bryan, you talked a lot about a couple of your favorite baits for fishing the vegetation are the swim jig and the chatterbait. And I think a lot of guys think of those two baits as kind of serving much the same purpose. And I realize a lot of this is experimentation, finding out just what it is they might want that day. But how do you identify a better situation for a chatterbait versus a swim bait? A swim jig.
I understand exactly what you're talking about. So I can't pull up somewhere and say this needs this technique because it can change by the day. It's crazy. It can change because they're spawn related. Okay, done spawning. And I've seen it on the Potomac and Upper Bay where it's just one day they want the swim jig, the next day they want the chatterbait.
Is it always potential for overlap so that you always start the day with both of them on the deck?
100%. Yes, that's a given. And there was a little time like a couple weeks ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that. I was on the Potomac a little bit, fishing a couple little Wednesday night tournaments, and they would not eat a chatterbait. the grass was set up for it. I mean, 4 foot of water. The grass was 1 to 2 foot tall, sparse. But if you reel the swim jig through that same area, you get a bite. And my partner threw a chatterbait for a couple hours, never had a bite. He switched to a swim jig, started catching them. So, but it can change just right back and forth for sure.
Wow. I had a question, Brian, for you real quick, talking about chatterbait, talking about a bladed jig, vibration jig. What rod setup do you use for that? Because we've heard a lot here at BU. We've got the side that loves a parabolic, almost glass rod. You see Brett Hite and a lot of guys using a glass rod. And you see other guys using a softer graphite rod. What's your ideal rod and reel combo for a chatterbait?
I'm a softer graphite guy. I use a short rod. I use a 6.9.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like them to be able to get it. I don't know. You can feel them before you hook them.
Yeah.
And that's a costly deal. So I have a rod that I really like. It's a shorter, softer rod. I just like to feel everything. I mean, I can tell if I got a piece of grass the size of your pinky nail on the chatterbait, so it's a feel thing for everybody, but that's how I do it. I'm a fluorocarbon 15-pound, and I get on with it.
Yeah, I like it.
What's the advantage of the shorter rod, like the 6.9? That's a short rod.
I have fallen in love with it. I don't know, and I don't know what to tell you there. I've fallen in love with it.
Yeah, I could tell you, I used to use, my original chatterbait rod was a 6.6 medium action rod. And then I felt like I liked it. I fell in love with it. And then I felt like it was a little short. So I moved to a 7-foot medium. So I'm not that, 6.9,
Yep.
pretty close. So I like it. I think that shorter rod, I think a slower action graphite, a medium action graphite rod, I think that's the right combo.
Mike, why did you go up to the 7-footer? Was it to get a little extra casting distance, or what?
I think that's what it was. I don't know. There were just some scenarios when I was up tight, docks or just a real close scenario, it was fine. But when I got in that scenario where I had to make really long casts, I felt just at a little disadvantage. But I went to the 6 inches longer. It's perfect. Perfect for me.
I can see where a 6.6 would be great if you're skipping under a dock or something. And it seems like maybe Brian's choice is that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah. Yep. I think a 6.9 would be good.
Extra 6 inches never hurt nobody.
Wrong show. Riz, we got a couple more for you, Brian. Then we're gonna let you go. We know you're practicing for Champlain. We want to let you get to sleep. Go ahead, Riz. What do you got?
Got one more from Jordan Yates, and he wants to know your setup for your swim jig fishing. Is it the same 6.9 rod, or talk a little bit about what you're throwing that swim jig on?
So I was fortunate. I'm partnered with Fitzgerald Fishing, and I have a signature series swim jig rod. It's a 7.1 medium heavy. It's got a very, very forgiving tip. It's almost a crankbait tip. I'm a finesse swim jig guy. This rod is built for that. So it just enables the fish to get it. You're not going to overpower the hook set. You're not going to even bend your hook. You're not going to break any fish off. This rod, I took a long time to develop. It's a very, very good rod, guys. You definitely want to check it out. It's my signature series swim jig rod for Fitzgerald. 7.1, but it's got some backbone. If you need to pull them out too.
That's awesome. Brian, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. This whole show, my mind is actually blown tonight with grass. It's been amazing to hear it from a biology side, and now to hear from a guy that dominates grass fishing and tidal water fishing. It's been awesome. I can't thank you
enough.
enough.
When's the last time you've had this much grass? in your system.
It's got to be since high school, you know, since on your mom's garage roof, ordering pizza from Marino's. You know?
Nice. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that well. Trend zones. Brian, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for spreading some knowledge. And I know our listeners and subscribers appreciate it. I wish you a lot of luck in the next few elites too.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it big time.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, sir. Bryan
Thanks,
Schmitt,
Brian.
everybody.
Good luck.
Yes.
Good luck, buddy.
Yes. Awesome, man. Awesome.
That was Bryan Schmitt, and my name is Pete Gluzek, bitches.
Yes, it is.
Somebody on the message board is now downloading. What am I even saying?
Download.
Somebody on the message board is donating, downloading, same thing.
Yeah.
Donating $10 to the Ike Foundation because you said I'm Pete Gluzek, bitches.
Wow. There's $10 to the Ike Foundation. Thanks.
I had
dude.
to I saw that come across, so I had to make sure I made $10 for the Ike Foundation.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. All right. I think we got some stuff to give away here. We got a trivia question. What do we got?
We
Talk to
sure
me.
do. We got some
Talk to
Can-Do
me.
trivia questions, and
All
we
right.
also have the professional fish heads list coming in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so-
All right.
Yeah.
Give it to me. What do we
Ken,
got?
come at us, Ken.
What do we got? Come on, Ken.
Take it away.
Come on. Shoot. Hit us. Hit us.
I got 2 questions if we need them. I think for Riz and Brian's purposes, I am going to ask the first one for the audience here for a big prize. And on this very date in 1973,
Hold on now.
48 years ago or 47 years ago, a California angler named Dave Zimmerly caught a 20-pound, 15-ounce largemouth bass. It was at the time the second biggest ever caught, and it was the first 20-pound fish certified since George Perry's world record more than 40 years earlier.
Wow.
What was Zimmerly using? What was his lure or bait when he caught the 2015 in Lake Miramar, California?
Wow.
Ooh, that's a good
great
question. It's a good question.
Ken.
But I want everybody to think about that date, right? 73.
73.
That has to put you in the ballpark with lure selection here now.
Jitterbug, Snagless Sally.
I'm just going to say this particular lure or bait is still available.
Oh.
Still available.
Cream
And
worm.
Mike Iaconelli at this point was 1 year old, folks. So
I'm going to say giant ass jelly worm.
We're looking for a specific bait here, guys.
Okay, specific bait.
Oh my gosh, we have a winner.
What? It's not possible.
have
Hasn't
a
even been a
winner.
full minute.
Holy crap! our people are good.
That's not believable.
Dude. There's
Is this a setup?
There's no way he Googled it that fast either because
You can't Google it
because
that
of
fast.
our delay, right?
Yeah.
And it's just too quick to Google.
It's
But
impossible.
The winner is Shane Kelly
Shane Kelly?
with. You guys want to hear the answer?
Yes.
A nightcrawler.
Ken?
Get the heck out of here.
Nightcrawler, absolutely. That's
Oh!
still available. You can still go into many bait shops and get
Wow.
Congratulations.
Nighty.
color selection is much broader today, but you can still get a nightcrawler.
How about that?
Congratulations, Shane Kelly.
I've been
Send me-
overthinking it the last few years.
Send me your subscriber number. You just won yourself 2 packs of VMC Nico hooks, 2 packs of VMC Tokyo rigs, a pack of missile bait destroyers,
Hit me, Brian.
a RTD rod threading device,
Look at all this
and TH Marine cull tags,
Look at all this
and a
stuff.
TH
Whoa.
Marine prop
Look
nut.
at all
Mike,
this
show them the TH Marine cull tags, if you could, the G-Force. That's an awesome product.
That's an awesome product.
Tell
Let's talk about that for a second.
talk about that, Mike, and
Yeah.
what the advantages to using them are.
Well, I can tell you this is exact same one I use when I'm fishing in events where you have to put fish in your live well. The thing I love about this is the clips are non-penetrating.
Yes.
They stay in there, so they don't have the holes. You're not tearing their face up, but they stay on the jaw really good. And I'll be honest with you, Pete. So many guys are using digital scales. I've never used a digital scale in a tournament. I use the beam that's in this thing. And gravity never lies. That's all I can
Beam
tell you.
does not lie.
Gravity
You are
never lies, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I love the way that their tags and the little notch in the end of the beam on
Yeah.
that system. It makes it real fast.
Super
like
fast.
you can just get them on there and find the one you want, and then get them back in the water extremely efficiently.
It's a very, very, very effective system. It's a foolproof system, unless the guy that's culling your fish is a fool.
Right, unless the guy's an idiot.
Yeah,
and he
unless
forgets the black coal pen that's in the very corner.
Yeah, unless
right.
he's more concerned with
birds,
the birds,
Adirondack chairs,
and the lighting.
all of the above,
Yeah.
everything but bass fishing.
Right.
While
Mike,
we're in a
how
bass
about
fishing
the-
tournament?
Right.
How about the winners of the tournament? Miss Culling.
Miss Cole.
Oh my God!
Yeah, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't.
So, Pete, when it's your day, it's your day, and that's all.
It's
there
your
is to it.
day.
It was their day.
I think it was awesome. I mean, the pit in my stomach would have been hurting
Oh,
so
I know.
bad if I looked in there and saw 2.5 pounder and threw back a
gosh.
4 pounder.
Oh
I'm
gosh.
crying. But they survived it.
They
and
survived
won.
it, caught a 5, so
Yeah.
upgraded by a pound. So
I
That's what-
was just glad
that's
that
what you
Dave
do.
confessed to his crime,
To Miss
because
Cole?
we weighed in like 15.5 pounds, and I swore we were close to like 17, 18 or so.
yeah,
And I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we still had 1.5 pounds in there, and we're throwing back 2 3/4.
yeah,
Or whatever, you know?
yeah.
I mean, not that we were anywhere in contention, but I felt like my fish guesstimating skills were a little bit better than that.
Guesstimating skill.
Yeah. So
Mike, at this time, I would like to take just a moment, and I would like to claim victory
Oh.
for the Bash U Live crew for the Ike Foundation tournament.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'll call BS on that right off the bat. We all
do you mean?
agreed that it was $20 buy-in, and because I was in an electric-only motor, I get 5 pounds. Now you put 5 pounds on my 17. Where you at?
Oh.
Where you at?
I don't
I
recall.
accept PayPal, Venmo, whatever you got.
I don't recall that 5 pound advantage.
I'll roll
Did
back
we
the
agree
tape on
that?
it, buddy. Yes.
But
Well-
so I don't know if
I
you
got memory loss. I don't remember.
yeah, but I don't know if you knew this, but word on the street is that the very next day, Pete, on Sunday, 5 Live had their event, and Centaur won fishing retreads. Never left the ramp.
True story.
True
What kind of
story.
weight?
Why would he?
What was his weight?
20 pounds,
20
kidding.
something.
23.2.
20
Wow.
yeah, 20.32.
600 bass just got released there the day
But,
before.
so this is a good question. Maybe this is a question. This might have been a better question for Jeff, but I'm going to ask Ken. I always thought retreads needed at least a day to recover. How the hell does Mike roll in there less than 24 hours? I mean, we're talking about 10 hours later, 12 hours later, and catches these fish that were just released. That doesn't make any sense.
I hate to break this to you, Mike, and I really thought you had already known this, but this is a sad truth. These fish have a brain the size of the tip of that pen.
Right.
Did we just talk this?
Damn it.
And they're the
And we
ones
spend
that
a lot
shine
of
their guns
time
with the butt.
making them. We spend a lot of time thinking that they're Einstein, and I guarantee you, everybody on the show has caught a fish on the bed multiple times.
Yeah.
We yank that fish off the bed. We release that fish. We put him back. He swims right back. We catch him again. These fish are only sometimes super intelligent.
Sunday night we had Zach Burge on,
Yeah.
and he talked about catching the same fish in the same day
In the same day.
in Florida.
That's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about that, Ken? Talk to me about that, about winning tournaments. Like, didn't Rick Clunn, when he won on the Arkansas River and crushed everybody, wasn't he fishing retreads?
Yeah, Pine Bluff.
Well, and he was at Pine Bluff, but in '84 when he won that tournament, he was actually way up this funky creek that not a lot of people had given a lot of time and attention to. And he had that. This I guess it could be equal, but it'll certainly never be eclipsed. He had the heaviest weight every day of that classic. Imagine that. I mean, and ran away with it. He won it by 25 pounds.
Wow.
But no, those weren't retreads, as far as I know.
Well, Ken Cook won on retreads on the Upper Chesapeake
right.
Bay.
Good.
Yeah.
Sure, he won on retreads. Elk Neck State Park.
It's an interesting pattern. I mean, I guess I would think that the time you'd want to fish retreads is when things are really brutal, and not when times are good, like in your tournament where there are a number of boats with 18 plus pounds and everybody's basically got a limit. That doesn't seem like a likely candidate for somebody to come out there and catch and win on retreads.
Yeah. What do we got? We got professional fish head
He's coming in right now.
coming in right now. Okay.
And here we go.
All right, here we go.
There he is. JK.
Justin.
There's our guy.
What's up, guys?
What's up, JK? Talk to us, man.
Dude, great show tonight. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm coming on after all that.
Knowledge, baby.
Well, I mean, we can get right to it.
Let's hit it.
All right, so we're talking about what the pros are really throwing. Your top 5 for post-spawn grass. Now, Bryan Schmitt kind of hit all these categories except for maybe one. But one of the baits that's not on this list that he mentioned would have probably been the number one bait if the topic was summertime grass patterns. And that would be the Missile Baits D-Bomb. And we would have had to measure that against maybe the Rage Bug and the Pit Boss. But anyways, we're talking post-spawn, the period between the spawn and the summertime patterns for grass, so that in between, I'd make this list comprised of Bass U TV seminars, top professional finishes, and then kind of a truth test on, is that guy really throwing that? You can see with your own eyes a lot of times because tournaments are covered so well these days. Now, I'll give you guys a bonus real quick. One of the top seminars talking about post-spawn grass. It's going to be a piece of a seminar, but it's going to be Todd Fairclough on Bass U TV talking. The title is Fishing Vegetation in the Summer to Fall. Now, he starts that seminar with a post-spawn period. He gives you guys like a key grass depth is in the 5-foot range. He's talking about stuff like creeks near flats leading to the main lake. He's talking about the brim beds being a big key. And his favorite baits are frogs and soft stick baits, which will play right into our top 5. So with that bonus stuff said, let's get to it. At number 5, we have the Dirty Jigs swim jig with a swim bait trailer. The couple most popular ones that I uncovered for the trailer being the Berkeley Grass Pig and the Reaction Innovations Skinny Dipper.
Wow. All right. Okay. Okay.
Dirty Jigs.
Number 4, we have the Ultravide Speed Worms from Zoom, both the Magnum and the regular size. Mostly fished on lightweight Texas rigs.
Swim worm, speed worm.
Speed worm.
Let me-
huh?
Yeah, I guess, Mike, you know a thing or two about a swim.
I've been known.
Mike, you were throwing a speed worm to win your classic.
Yes. Yep.
Were you cutting your tail or were you leaving it uncut?
I
for
was
that?
cutting it. Back then, that particular worm had a paddle tail with a perforation that you could either snip with the scissors or leave solid. But in that particular event, I cut it. I cut it with the scissors.
Because I love the way that it works without cutting it. Like it makes, but it's so hard to get it to do it consistently, to vibrate like you want it.
Yeah.
But you were cutting it. And of course, Zoom makes them cut now.
They do. Yeah.
All right. That's surprising to me because down in Florida, that's a common thing, but we don't use it that much up here. But it won a classic. Indeed. What do you got for number 3, JK?
So then number 3 comes the Spro Bronzeye Frog 65.
That's what is that the that's not the popping frog.
Not the popping frog. The regular pointed nose frog.
How about that?
I got you.
Number 3.
For a lot of this post-spawn grass fishing, a lot of the stuff that I was looking at, maybe the grass was just thicker, or these guys were fishing tournaments where they, were in different situations where guys preferred that pointed nose, whether they wanted to walk it or fish it over thick stuff. I don't know.
Any guesses for 2 or 1?
Yeah, how about some guesses? I'll take some guesses.
Got to be topwater. Got to be. Well, I mean, we just said frog's topwater, but topwater's got to be 2 or 1.
Huh.
It's got to be a stick bait.
At number 2, the Yamamoto Seiko.
Hey!
I hate you, Pete.
This rig, weightless, wacky rigs, and Mike's Dum Dum rig.
Dum. Woo!
Have all, it seems like it doesn't matter how you do it, just do it the way you like to and that you are good at,
That's right. Anybody can do it.
Huh.
And number 1, are we ready?
Drum roll, please.
Hit it.
A surprise to no one, a Z-Man Evergreen Chatterbait Jackhammer with a Yamamoto Seiko trailer.
There you have it, folks. There you have it.
How
A
about
bladed vibration, Jake.
Yeah.
Once again, striking.
Yeah, and the cool thing was, and I sampled about 4 or 5 tournaments that post-spawn grass fishing was really prevalent. And green pumpkin on green pumpkin was probably the most popular combo of them all.
Interesting. I feel like
Yeah,
all
I'm
those
surprised.
guys wear white socks just so they match.
Could be.
So guys, if you wanna check out this top 5 for post-spawn grass, I'll put the link in the comment section there. But the link is a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/post-spawn grass top 5. And again, I'll add that to the message board if you want to check it out. Get on Tackle Warehouse and go look at what we just uncovered there.
Hook it up.
But I want to take a moment to ask my own personal question. I did some snooping around too, and I know Ike is a great grass fisherman. You've had great finishes in both the pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. I've looked at some top finishes where you've done really well. You know, I can remember, I think you were fishing post-spawn grass at a Lake Dardanelle event. That you got 6th place in, throwing a bladed jig and a mullet slug. And I believe, it's hard to pinpoint if that Cayuga top 12 you had was post-spawn or pre-spawn. I can't remember. I know those fish were in transition where you were bombing a bait.
Post, yeah.
Yeah, and then I got to know, because the old TV show, and Riz, you like watching old TV shows like I do, but your hot year, your 2006 AOY, now you won a Gunnersville tournament where you went and sight fished the last day, and that's what we got on TV. Now, it's my belief that you were out deeper those first 2 to 3 days weighing in some big sacks. I have a belief where you probably were in that lake as well, but I just want to confirm, were you post-spawn grass fishing?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
And
You hit it on the you hit the nail on the head. First day, I sight fished all day. Everything I weighed the first day, which I think was 17 3/4, all came sight fishing. The second day, cloud and rain moved in, and I knew it would be tough. I knew I burned most of my fish. The second day, I went to the mouth of Browns Creek, and I cranked 2 crankbaits. I cranked a DT6 chartreuse blueback, faded. Back then, that was before the Ike's Custom Ink colors, so it was a faded bait that I faded, and I also cranked a Strike King Series 5, not 5XD, Series 5, and the same faded chartreuse blue. It was cloudy the third day. I went back and caught them again at Browns Creek on those 2 crankbaits. And the last day, I caught, I think, 2 fish out there in the morning. And once that sun came up, it was over. I went back to sight fishing, and a lot of the fish that had been bedding, the males were now guarding fry just in that short 2 or 3 days. And I actually caught them on a French fry. I caught them on a tail-weighted French fry, or on the finicky fish, a French fry that I bit in half. So it was just the length of the hook. Perfect bait.
That.
Perfect bait for fry garters.
I remember that from the show.
Yeah,
You
but
biting down on the
every
French fry. Crazy.
fish I caught in that tournament, whether it was spawning, whether it was guarding fry, or whether they were those post-spawn fish at Browns, they were all around grass. Every single fish.
You bit a French fry down?
Bit a French fry.
And how was it rigged?
Texas style, but just bit it straight in half so that basically it was just a nub.
So it was a Ned rig.
It was a Ned rig, weightless Ned rig.
It was a weightless Ned rig.
Yeah.
Weightless?
Weightless. Yeah.
If you're biting a French fry in half, that's not finesse. Finesse is too long a word. That's just S.
At Lake Gunnersville.
Ultra S.
At Lake Gunnersville. That's incredible.
Crazy.
A half a French fry with no weight?
Half French fry, no weight.
Carolina rig?
No, just Texas. Weightless Texas on a spinning rod.
Bobber?
Huh?
On a bobber?
No.
What the hell?
A spinning rod.
That's ridiculous.
Nightcrawler?
And it was a watermelon seed French fry, too. So it was like translucent. You couldn't even see the thing.
Did you get rubber worms stuck between your teeth?
Probably did. Salt.
Yeah, if it gets
Flake.
if it gets
Black soup.
that's ridiculous.
That's awesome. I do remember that video. I remember you cutting that thing down. You were going nuts.
Yeah. Winning fish. Very important. Man, what a great show. Pete, I'm telling you, I'm serious. A memorable show for me tonight. Having two great grass guests on. Jeff Holland, of course, laying it down with the biology of grass, and then the best grass fisherman alive, or one of them, I'd have to argue.
For sure.
Bryan Schmitt joining us, giving us some goods there. Unbelievable show.
They were both fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
The mighty Ken Duke hung with us all night.
Ken Duke with huge comments, and of course that trivia question with the damn nightcrawler. Would have never guessed that. Damn it! I thought it was a jelly worm. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. Whether you're a BU subscriber, if you like what you saw, Riz, give them some of the ideas about what they can do. If they like what they saw and they're not a subscriber yet, and they said, "Man, this is good stuff. I need to be a member." What's going on right now?
Well, you need to head over to bashu.tv and get signed up annually for our annual subscription. And when you do that, we're going to hook you up with a camouflage Bashu TV official hat. This is the first time that we've released a camouflage hat for Bashu TV. So if you want to be one of the first to get your hands on that, you need to head over there and get subscribed. And also, we're not only sending you a hat, it's the Frog Days of Summer. We're going to send you 2 frogs to get out there and start jacking those big fish on top.
Love it.
And we also have a Facebook like and share winner still.
We do. Well, who do we got?
So the Facebook like and share winner for tonight, after it has entered the randomizer, is none other than Russell Wright. Congratulations, Russell Wright.
Russell.
We'll be reaching out to you via social media to gather your information.
Russell the Love Muscle.
Russell the Love Muscle won. What a show. I want to thank, of course, Ken Duke. I want to thank our very own JK for coming on.
Good job, JK.
Awesome. Yes, I want to thank you. I want to thank the Dean for coming on, and of course, Brian the Carpenter and Rizzo. What a good show.
I want to thank Miss Rebecca for spending some time helping us get through some.
We got through a couple issues. We're here with a great show. There you have it.
Thank you, Beck.
There you have it. Let's see. We'll tune in, I guess, again next Tuesday, Pete, and we'll have another great show lined up for him, and can't wait. It's going to be a good one.
And welcome to all the new Bash University TV subscribers tonight. Oh my gosh, everybody came over, and thanks for coming over. I know you're going to enjoy it. Let us know what you think, and welcome, and good luck with your frogs that you're going to get for Frog Days of Summer.
There you have it.
That's right.
All right. Hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday, a great week, a blessed weekend. Have a good night. We'll see you the next one. Bye, guys. Good night.
This is BashU TV.
Here's what's awesome about BashU TV.
You get the top instructors.
You will learn things at BashU that you will learn nowhere else.
And we help you build confidence with new techniques.
We take the mystery and the myths out of bass fishing.
Real tools that help you catch more fish consistently.
At BashU TV, shoes are optional.
And I like turtles.
We teach you to enjoy bass fishing.
And that's why you want to check out BashU TV.
Join the BashU family.
Welcome to BashU TV.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Ken. As always.